All right. So obviously, we're going to start off. This is going to be a somewhat Gaza heavy day today because it's a major news story. Not that I feel like Americans have moved on from it to a certain degree, where half the people are just like, okay, ceasefire is here, good. This is what we wanted. It's over, right? Like now we don't have to think about Palestine ever again. And then there's the other people who are like, it's not enough. We should have killed more Palestinians. And they can't openly say it like that, so they just go, why are the ceasefire now people so quiet? Why are the ceasefire now people so quiet? Meanwhile, the fire hasn't ceased. Okay, yeah. R.I.P. to Saleh. Like there's a very famous Palestinian journalist. There's a very famous Palestinian journalist who was shot and killed in the additional Israel-backed gangs, Israel armed gangs that immediately tried to take advantage of like the power vacuum that existed for like a brief moment. And Israel, instead of directly engaging the Palestinians, has basically let these like gangs roam around, and they come in from like Israel protected areas. They go into areas where like Hamas is reasserting control and the Palestinians are reasserting control, and basically they engage in these like gun battles, and a lot of people are covering it. They're not fully understanding exactly what's going on, but unfortunately in that process, are they like settlers? No, they're collaborators. So there are, for those of you that don't know, I mean, I'll get into it a little bit later because we're currently just talking about my GOAT, peaceful president, Mr. Peace. I like to call him President P, short for President Peace. Okay? Because he is my GOAT. He is the peace president. He's the peacetime president. He did it. He did the damn thing. Okay? President PP. Yeah. PP for short. President Peace. Anyway, because I know there will be some fucking hogs in here that are like, oh, why don't you give him credit? It's like, yeah, in comparison to Brandon, he actually did enforce the power that he had over Israel. I mean, he could have done this in fucking January, which would have, I think, in my opinion, if he had done this in January, he would have received a Nobel Peace Prize, and he would have deserved a Nobel Peace Prize. The fact that he actually waited for like another 9 months so that Israel could get, kill a bunch of more Palestinians in the Strip is gross and disgusting. But, at the end of the day, if we're going to measure him off of what Brandon did and what Brandon could have done and refused to do versus what he did, he did actually eventually fucking say to Israel, it's over, it's done. As far as we know, because right now, once again, just like I said with the last ceasefire, if this is long lasting and this actually starts up the process of recovery, relief, and also recognition of a statehood, a recognition of sovereignty, true emancipation for the Palestinians, then I'm on board. That's great. Okay. I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that that is going to happen. And I don't even think that the ceasefire is a legitimate one. I think Israel is going to find ways to violate it. If you recall, for the last couple of days, I've mentioned two things that Israel could potentially use to make it seem as though they don't want to abide by a ceasefire, to claim that it's actually the Palestinians that are not abiding by a ceasefire. And they have literally started using those two things. If you've been in here for the past week or so, when I was covering this stuff, you already probably heard that. Number one, they can't find all of the dead hostages. They're gonna use that as an opportunity to say, the Palestinians are spoiling this ceasefire negotiation. They're not abiding by it. And they've already started saying that. And number two, they'll claim, well, these guys are not actually fully disarming. So we have no other choice but to go in and continue our genocide. Both of those things are like being entertained right now in Israeli news. But overall, this is where we're at. We're taking it one day at a fucking time. So let's take a look. Breaking news. Donald Trump signs historic Gaza peace plan.
President Trump now signing that historic Gaza deal. Let's listen in.
Some were brought in and some were not. And they're working out to find out where those bodies are. It's hard to believe that you even have to say something like that. It's so sad. It's so sad. But what's not said is that we have finally, after, I guess they say 3,000 years, I've heard from 3,000 years to 500 years, but whatever it is, it's a lot. But this was the one, this was the granddaddy of them all, and frankly, I thought this was probably going to be the toughest, and maybe in many ways it was, but we had a lot of good talent. Steve Witkoff, Jared, Marco, and Pete, General Kane.
3,000 years, more like 3 million. You don't understand. 3 million years. It's been promised to Israel. It's Israel, Israel. I love the Bible. It's in the Bible. You know me. I'm a big Bible fan. I'm a big Israel fan. I am feeling more confident about the longevity of the ceasefire just because of how much Trump has put his personal brand behind it. Given how hard he's going at owning it, it would be very embarrassing for it to break down now. His statement on Hamas made me feel more confident as well. Yes, this was actually another unique moment where Donald Trump says the quiet part out loud in a way that is so unexpected from any American leadership whatsoever. This was a huge moment. Correspondent goes, Hamas is rearming itself as a police force shooting rivals. What's the message to Hamas? And Donald Trump straight up goes, that's going to happen. They're taking control over the strip. They've been open about it. They have to do it. Many, many chaotic moments. This has happened so many times with Trump because he just doesn't abide by the normal diplomatic PR trained answers that are required of him in the way that other politicians would. Because of that reason, okay, he will sometimes just say shit that is true, but you would never fucking hear. You would never fucking hear from an American president or even an American politician. He did this with the Houthis. If you remember, he did this with the Houthis. With the Houthis, he was like, yep, they're brave. They're the bravest fighters you've ever seen. The Houthis, they're so brave. They're brave fighters. We couldn't do it. We had to do a deal with the Houthis. They're good fighters. They really got it down, the fighting. And it was shocking when he fucking said that because you just don't expect that from an American president. Or if you remember from many, many years prior, when Trump was originally running for president in 2016, when he had moments like that a lot more frequently, when he wasn't as like Washingtonian brained, he would say stuff like, I think it was with Bill O'Reilly, where he famously once said like, you know, Putin's got killers. Well, we got killers too. We're not such good guys either. Like, it's stuff like that every now and then comes out of his mouth where you're just like, I never expected an American politician to say that. It's weird. It feels like he just has like accidental truthful moments, partially because he just says whatever comes to his mind, and because he's never experienced any fucking repercussions for it throughout his goddamn career as a politician, he just will sometimes arrive at a correct position. And in most circumstances, he actually says the quiet part out loud, which is very frustrating for a lot of people. Like when he was saying to Ukraine, like, you don't hold the cards, we hold all the cards, which ironically wasn't even true. It was Russia that held the cards. But it's just like it's a very strange phenomena where you see Donald Trump every now and then just come out with no sugarcoating whatsoever. Lord, oh shit. Fuck. God damn it. Sprayed coffee. With no sugarcoating whatsoever, every now and then we'll engage in these kinds of moments, right? We'll engage in this kind of commentary. We'll say the quiet part out loud. In a lot of instances, the quiet part out loud, unironically, is betraying the supposed, like, America does violent stuff, but it's actually done at the behest of a greater good. America has to be the world police shit, right? It's oftentimes stuff like, it's oftentimes him straight up telling people, hey, what are you going to do about it? Of course, we're going to keep selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, even though they like chopped up an American journalist, because do you have $3 billion to purchase weapons with? And if they don't buy it from us, they'll buy it from somebody else. Like, that's what I mean. When I say like Trump has moments of clarity like that, it can go in either direction. Like when he fucking openly will be like, yeah, if I was a Venezuelan, He was not a citizen. Yes, he was. He was an American legal permanent resident. What the fuck are you talking about? Jamal Khashoggi was straight up, was killed by Saudi Arabia, and he was an American legal permanent resident. Shireen Abu Akleh, which was sniped by Israel, was a Palestinian, but also an American legal permanent resident. There have been plenty of instances where people with like dual citizenship or have some kind of like American legal permanent residency that have been killed by people that we consider to be our allies. And America predictably doesn't do anything about it because all they give a shit about is selling weapons. But yeah, that's what it is. That is what it is, as always. Yeah, the gray bars are back. Bro, listen to the second speech that Trump gave. It is hilarious. Yeah, gray bars are back right on time. Oh, fuck. Part of me feels like BB won't be able to resist pulling out his dick and slapping Trump. I don't know. I think a lot of people are basically looking at what Trump is not just what Trump is saying, but like I've been talking to a lot of Palestinians. I've been talking to Palestinians that are still in Gaza. I've been talking to Palestinians that have escaped Gaza. Palestinians who are pro-Hamas, Palestinians who are anti-Hamas. You know what I mean? Like to get a better understanding of the situation in the eyes of the Palestinian public in general. And virtually everyone seems to think that this ceasefire will hold. Like every single person. So I think there is something different here, and maybe it's because of all of the pressure around the world and like Israel's pariah state. It's made the American government, or at least Trump, recalculate his allowance for Israel to do violence. Okay, that's what it feels like to me.
Hamas rearming, instituting themselves as a Palestinian police force, shooting rivals. What is it?
Because they do want to stop the problems, and they've been open about it, and we gave them approval for a period of time. You have to understand, they've lost probably 60,000 people. That's a lot of retribution. They've lost 60,000 people, and the ones that are living right now were, in many cases, very young when this all started. And we are having them watch that there's not going to be big crime or some of the problems that you have when you have areas like this that have been literally demolished. You know, you have 2 million people, and probably it'll be less than that, but you have close to 2 million people going back to buildings that have been demolished. And a lot of bad things can happen. So we want it to be safe. I think it's going to be fine. Who knows for sure, Katie? But I think it's going to be fine.
I mean, that right there is straight up one of those. That right there is like one of those unique moments where he's just like, yeah, we're letting him do it. Which, by the way, can change at any moment, right? Because like someone on the Israeli side will be like, no, we have to fucking use that back and forth conflict as an opportunity to go back in to the Gaza Strip with the Israeli military, and Trump will turn around and say it, right? Because so he's saying that the U.S. is approving of Hamas acting as an interim police force, which is probably true, but they would never say that. No, of course it's true, obviously. Like, we're talking about millions of people that live here. They have to have some kind of governance. Otherwise, it's chaos. Of course it's true. Of course it's going to be who already controlled the Strip prior to October 7. They are the only ones with the organizational capacity at this moment. And Israel, knowing full well that there is like sectarian conflict even within the Gaza Strip, with a bunch of criminal elements within the Gaza Strip, have utilized a different clans within the Gaza Strip to actively steal aid and actively fucking shoot at people and create chaos at the point of aid delivery, things of that nature. Like they've been utilizing different factions within the Strip over and over again. So obviously, in order to reassert control in the interim period while the ceasefire continues, the people that are in charge before they actually dissolve are going to do that. Right? And Trump understands that because it makes sense. It has to happen. And what is crazy about it is not that, that's what's going on. What's crazy about it is that Trump recognizes it and says it out loud. Having said that, remember, tomorrow he could say something different. If someone on the Israel side says, Mr. President, why the fuck did you say Hamas is just like reasserting authority and control over the Gaza Strip, where we're going to use that as an example of chaos to go back in to find like a just cause to go and fucking dominate the Strip. He will turn around and say it. He will turn around and say whatever the Israeli envoys are telling him to communicate.
John Ratcliffe was incredible. We had an amazing array of talent, and we were helped by, in particular, the countries represented at this table. I will say, Tamim, you were fantastic, and your country is unbelievable, and I don't think they give you a fair shake. They talk about you as the...
This is good news, but as Trump, it will flop. Also saying he would have deserved a Nobel Peace Prize is insane. He's a convicted rapist. Don't let this man whitewash his horrid legacy. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. First of all, I don't believe the Nobel Peace Prize is like a valid instrument of justice or peace. Okay? That much is probably clear to you. I've covered it before. I covered it in this past Nobel Peace Prize. Like the recipient was someone who was literally pro-Israel and wants Israel to intervene in Venezuela. Like, that's fucking ridiculous, right? It means nothing. Having said that, if that was a primary motivator, I've always said it would be valid. The second thing I also mentioned that you're failing to consider here is that if he had actually come into office and as his first act in office, he literally fucking implemented the ceasefire that's happening right now, but all the way back in January, then it would have been valid. It would have been valid. And the reason why it would have been valid is because he would have, without having his hands bloody on this iteration of the genocide, even though what he had done prior with the Abraham Accords is basically what led to October 7 to begin with, right? But he would have, because the environment would have shifted so much under Biden, that he would have been able to present himself as someone who is actually charting a different course for the trajectory of the Palestinians. He would have been seen as someone who actually went in there and truly stopped the death and destruction. And yet he didn't do that. And he allowed Israel to continue doing death and destruction for another 8-9 months, which is completely unacceptable. And for the record, what a spectacular defeat for the Democrats here, because the reality of the matter is both the Democratic Party and the Republicans had this maximum power over Israel. Okay? We don't know if this ceasefire will hold. I really hope it does. Having said that, if it does hold, the Republicans will look like the peaceful party once again. And the Democrats will look like the party that had every opportunity to put an end to this slaughter and refused to do so. It's incredible. What a spectacular political defeat this has been, even outside of the immoral nature of advancing a genocide. Think about that. Finally, they are home. Crimea River, there is no hostage swap. The released Palestinians are murderers and rapists. There is no genocide. Fuck Gaza, fuck Hamas. Long live Israel, long live America. Death to all Hamas Nazis. Streuselkuchen 8. Zion Nazis feeling a little bit more comfortable with their statements today of all days. You said, so what? So what, yeah. So what? Thank you for your low tier bait, dumbass. Hassan Nazi, shut up. Between you and I, it's awfully funny for you to call me a Nazi, you know? Yeah, if you're defending Israel, I think we both know who's the Nazi here. This is what's different about the landscape, even in the Western world now. In the past, you could have just been like, you could have actually been, you could have actually gotten away with like claiming someone who's anti-Israel is a Nazi, right? And there are definitely Nazis who are anti-Israel. I'll go so far as to say there are Nazis who are pro-Israel in larger numbers than Nazis who are anti-Israel, but that's besides the point. Now, what's interesting to me in this day and age is that this doesn't work anymore. This doesn't work after 2 years of genocide. It was never truthful. It was never a truthful retort regardless. But now a lot of other people, a lot of normies are aware that this is not truthful. And that's the difference. But yeah, it's an absolute embarrassment for the Democrats that Donald Trump has shown more interest in ending the killing in Gaza than Joe Biden did. I know that a lot of Democrats are going to get mad for myself saying this, for other leftists saying this, but this is not only the reality, even though Donald Trump's hands are also bloody here. Make no mistake, okay? He is also a butcher. He is also responsible for the wholesale slaughter of Gaza. While that is still true, between him and Biden, he looks better on this issue. And that is what's so fucking crazy about this. This is what I have been saying over and over again. Like, the Democrats do not understand. They are losing people to one of the most incompetent, one of the most transparent, belligerent fascists of all time. And everyone is going to give him his flowers over and over again now. And the Democrats are just going to sit around and look petty. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about any of this. It's just so wild to me. But hey, that's Pee-Pee, man. That's the peace president, Mr. Pee-Pee. Straight up. As long as this ceasefire holds, that's the motherfucker who basically forced Israel's hand to stop the genocide after allowing Israel to continue doing its genocide. Make no mistake, he's still a piece of shit. It's crazy. We should clarify that losing people in this instant isn't leftists becoming Trump or Republican voters. Yeah, no, there is a large swath of normies out there that are just not fucking tuned into anything, okay? Many of those normies have decided Israel's doing something bad, but they don't really give a shit about it too much, but they just don't think that it's okay that we're giving so much money to Israel, right? They will hear that Donald Trump ended the fucking genocide. They will hear that Donald Trump ended the war, right? And they'll go, okay, well, time to give him credit, I guess. That's what they will remember. Because people don't actually know exactly what's going on in the background. You have to remember, if you're in here right now, with the exception of those who are coming in here to be like, oh, you're killing your dog or whatever the fuck. For most people that tune in every day, you are very aware of all of the minutia, all of the details, all of the wheeling and dealing that takes place. Okay? The average person, even the average well-read person, if they're only getting their news from like the New York Times or Guardian or the BBC or CNN, MSNBC, they're not getting all of this background detail. They're not getting all of this information. For them, they just see Donald Trump doing the damn thing. Okay? That's what they see.
You're not a nice person and you happen to be a nice person. You happen to live in a little tough neighborhood. You're surrounded by everybody. And without you, this wouldn't have happened. And I just want to thank you very much. That's Qatar. And an amazing leader. And another man who's been a friend of mine for a long time. I don't know what it is. I like the tough people better than I like the soft, easy ones. I don't know what the hell that is. It's a personality problem, I suspect. But this gentleman from a place called Turkey has one of the most powerful armies actually in the world. It's much more powerful than he even lets known. If you look.
Oh my God, glaze. So Jeremy and I were talking about Turkey's involvement and what that means, if you remember. And I feel like I didn't actually understand what his question was. And I think there is more to the Turkish involvement and why that's significant that I briefly alluded to in that conversation, but I didn't actually mention or elaborate further on. Turkey is, alongside Qatar, one of the only countries in that region that actively and openly does not say Hamas is a terrorist organization. Okay? They not only host Hamas Politburo members, but they also have a very different position. Despite being under the American security apparatus, the American security umbrella, they will openly state that Hamas is not a terrorist organization, it's a resistance organization. Turkey obviously doesn't feel that way about Hezbollah. There is some other reasons for it. They don't like Iran or anything like that. But when it comes to Hamas, the official position that they have moved forward with is that in spite of their status as a NATO country, they have openly always maintained the position that Hamas is a resistance group, which is the truth, by the way, right? And the reason why the Turkish involvement here was significant is because I think their involvement signaled to Hamas that their involvement in the roundtable negotiations signaled to Hamas that they would be treated more fairly, that they wouldn't be fucked over. Now, I don't trust Erdogan as far as I can throw him. Okay, I don't think he's a trustworthy person, but I clearly the Hamas side, like the Palestinian resistance side in general, made that calculation a little bit differently than myself. Here's some more information on this. Turkey, Qatar, and other regional states would not let Hamas be destroyed despite being verboten in U.S. and U.S.-led countries. Hamas is treated with normal diplomatic protocol in Moscow and Beijing because the group plays an important role in this stage of the larger conflict. Yeah, Gershon Baskin notes how Turkey's spy chief Ibrahim Kalın helped Hamas get over the finish line. In conclusion of these first thoughts, President Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Steve Witkoff is a deal maker, and without Witkoff, none of this would have happened. Witkoff speaks for the president. Everyone knows it. Jared Kushner's role at this point was crucial because in the near future, Ron Dermer will be working for Kushner and not for Netanyahu. Bringing Kushner for the final round of negotiations was a brilliant move to neutralize Dermer's defined role of foiling every chance of ending the war. The Turkish head of intelligence is very close to Witkoff and to Hamas, and the Turkish intensive role was crucial in putting the pressure on Hamas to agree to the deal and not to walk away from the table. Is Hamas really a terrorist group like the West says? How do you feel about Hamas? Terrorism is a vague definition that the American government and Western nations use against all movements. In certain instances, it's valid. It's understandable to consider some group a terrorist group like ISIS or ISIS affiliate like Salafist movements and Al Qaeda and things like that, especially ones that want to like inspire global jihad, as they like to call it. But yes, in the instance of Hamas, or even in the case of Hezbollah, as a matter of fact, the terrorism designation is actually not an apt one. It's just a political one. It's no different than the terrorism designation that Nelson Mandela had, or the IRA had. It's a national emancipatory movement. A national emancipatory movement, especially with Hamas, in the case of Hamas, that does not operate outside of the confines of historic Palestine. That's what's interesting about Hamas's goals, and Hamas is a movement. It's just a part of a larger resistance group that is tasked with ending the occupation. Hamas is a resistance group. They have committed acts that you could describe as terror attacks in the past, but I would hesitate to call it a terrorist group. Its primary purpose is not terror. All militant groups are capable of engaging in terroristic acts. Exactly. If we're going to be super certain with the definitions, the concept that I abide by in terms of terrorism as a non-state actor, like terrorism designation or acts of terror for non-state actors, is oftentimes utilized when like non-state actors decide to target civilians. And yes, it is true that members of the Palestinian resistance have throughout time evolved and throughout time have decided to change their targets away from police and military to civilians as well. These are acts that you could consider to be acts of terror. Okay, while it is still for a higher emancipatory goal, these are definitionally what people think about when they think about acts of terror. 9/11, that's an act of terror, right? You have planes that are flying into a civilian area with the express purpose of causing chaos with a group that has a larger political goal, but what they're trying to do is basically just like put an environment of fear. Right? Boston Marathon is another great example of an act of terror, right? The Boston Marathon bombing. So ultimately, it makes sense if your entirety of your output, or if your goals are not inherently emancipatory, but rather colonial. Even if you're a non-state actor, you can still engage in have like a broader colonial goal. Like ISIS had a broader, not colonial, but how do I describe it? A broader goal of creating an Islamic caliphate in this region, right? In the Levant. And that was an area that does not belong to them. They're expansionists. They're killing all these civilians. They're fucking brutalizing them. It is totally, it's an appropriate usage of the term terror group and an appropriate usage of the term like terrorism in general, right? States, ironically enough, oftentimes engage in these sorts of actions with regular frequency, a lot more frequently than non-state actors like Hamas do, for the record. Like, I mean, look at what Israel has done. Genocide is when the state decides to do the maximalist version of terror, right? Which is why I always say that ISIS or Nazi Germany is a closer equivalent to what Israel's ideological goals are and what Israel's actions look like against a captive population that it is the belligerent occupier of. Whereas ISIS is not a good comparison or an analog for Hamas at all, because Hamas's goals are not expansionist. Hamas's goals are emancipatory. In the act of said emancipatory purpose, have they engaged in acts of what you would consider terrorism? Absolutely. Bus bombings are a perfect example of this, right? Like any sort of like direct civilian targeting in any sort of militant action could be considered a war crime or an act of terror. Having said that, ultimately, they only operate within the confines of historic Palestine, and they've always been very careful to say that they only operate within the confines of historic Palestine. Anyway, in one of my classes, we read a paper that said ISIS was like a death cult. Would you say that's accurate? Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's inaccurate. I mean, yeah, they're nutty. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it's not. There's a reason why regional actors don't have the same fucking attitude about Hamas as they do about ISIS, even though the same regional actors that are sitting right there have in the past, at the direction of these guys, have actually funded and facilitated, logistics for ISIS. But that's for a different time, either directly or indirectly.
Look at some of the recent conflicts. He was at the top of them, and he was winning them, and he did win them. And he doesn't want any credits. He doesn't want anything. He just wants to be left alone. He's a tough cookie, but he's been my friend. And every time I've ever needed him, he's been there for me. So I just want to thank President Erdogan, Turkey. And they don't have a problem with him because he is difficult. They called me. They said, would you do me a favor? Could you speak to Erdogan? And I do. And he never fails us. Right, General? He never fails. He's amazing. So I just want to thank you for the friendship. It's good. Thank you very much. And, of course, we have the host tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. It was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful, and very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate, and you are a great leader. You have very little crime. You have problems that other countries don't have, and, of course, nothing's perfect, but the job you do is amazing, and I want to thank you. Another one, we've been my friend right from the beginning. During the campaign against crooked Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God, I can't believe that this motherfucker's talking about crooked Hillary Clinton in Sharm el Sheikh, bro. Oh God. I love how the FIFA president was invited to this, by the way. Yeah, you got Macron in the background too. All the best boys, all the besties are here, okay? Incredible.
We were both downstairs waiting to go up to meet this gentleman who has a place called Egypt, the oldest civilization. They say 6,000 years. China's 5,000 years, but you're actually number one. 6,000 years, can you believe it? But the oldest, they say, civilization. But so I want.
That's your president, my guy. I can't believe it. Every day that passes by, and I see how people behave on the internet, I understand why he's the president. I think I think this is the best it's going to get. I think he is reflective of how Americans are. He's just, this is us.
To meet him first, and we like each other so much that she waited for about an hour and a half, and I think your meeting lasted about 2 minutes with her, so I always remembered that. But that was our first meeting. We had great chemistry together. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great president. And
I'm so sorry for your loss. What happened? I mean, it's not a loss just for all of us. It's a loss for the entire world, I think. Like, it's just, there is no world where like America is just hermetically sealed from the rest of the planet. We all lose. When this guy is in charge of basically every fucking Western nation, we all lose. And I don't know. The more The more I think about this stuff and the more I see the historic parallels of growing fascism and the death of liberal democracy at the time, and the way that, like, the period pre-World War I, between World War I and World War II, that time frame had similar shocks. Western liberal capitalist nations were basically trying to define what liberal democracies would look like. There was still some institutional grip that the monarchy had over many of these countries. Nation states were being designed, and I think at that time frame, a lot of people were like, yeah, liberal democracy sucks dick, bro. I don't want this shit. I want something different. And we all know what that different thing was. That different thing was fascism. It came up and blew the fuck up because it was so easy to get on board with. It was all vengeance, especially because of all of the economic harm that people had experienced, all of the direct violence that they had engaged with, or the violence that they had experienced. And they were like, yeah, we need to whip everybody up. We need to whip people into some kind of order. And the liberal capitalists thought, you know, who could do this really good? Who could do this really well? The fascists can. And I think a similar version of that is already happening, but this time, instead of like liberal, instead it's the liberal Democrats themselves, like the liberals themselves. And I use like liberalism in the sense of like Trump is a liberal as well. They are the ones who are forming. It's not like a new fascist movement. It's more so that these guys are basically melding their movement into fascism.
Thank Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. Really representative of a whole group of nations, and they're sitting behind us, and you know most of them, I can tell you this guy's got so much money. They all have so much money. There's more money and power sitting behind us. I love that they're behind us. They've never been sitting behind anybody before. This is a very unique position for them, but they are.
Netanyahu canceled his trip to Egypt. Oh, yeah. So Netanyahu's, here it is. This is senior Middle East correspondent for I-24 News. Ariel Osaran says Netanyahu's decision to cancel his trip to Sharm el-Sheikh came following opposition by numerous countries that presumed Egypt to prevent Netanyahu from attending the Gaza Peace Summit, an Arab source tells I-24. So he wasn't initially invited. Donald Trump actually wanted him to come. And all of the other countries that are involved, especially the ones that are in the region, did not want Netanyahu there because I think they just didn't want to. They didn't want to be seen side by side with Netanyahu. They didn't want to be seen like shaking his hand or anything like that. And then he basically was disinvited quickly. The source stated that countries such as Turkey, Spain, Iraq, South Africa, and others claim that since they do not allow Netanyahu to fly over their territory due to the ICC arrest warrant against them, therefore he should not be invited to the summit and seen in their midst. Sources close to Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas relayed messages to Cairo that this is not the time for a handshake with Netanyahu, the source said. Additionally, a group of journalists organized in Egypt sought to join forces with the Hind Rajab Foundation to examine the possibility of contacting a local Egyptian court to issue an arrest warrant against Netanyahu. According to the Arab source, following internal consultations mainly with the security establishment, it was decided to avoid the embarrassment, and Netanyahu canceled his trip to Egypt. This person says a peace summit without one of the belligerents present sounds real promising. No. The belligerent is present. Trump is there. The main belligerent is present. Everybody knows that, for the record. So remember that. Everybody understands. They do the handshakes and they do the symbolism, but everyone understands. They're not stupid. Or even a stupid man knows who is responsible for this death and destruction. The main belligerent here is the United States of America. All of those regional actors know that reality. And therefore, they were like, we have one of the belligerents here. Okay? Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's trip to Sharm el-Sheikh summit was conceived during his ride with President Trump from Ben Gurion Airport to the Knesset in Jerusalem, according to a source familiar with the details. When I spoke with President Trump while he was on Air Force One en route to Israel, he didn't know that Netanyahu hadn't been invited to the summit and said that the Egyptians were the ones responsible for the invitations. During the ride to the Knesset in the Beast, Trump told Netanyahu that he should attend. The source noted that Netanyahu agreed. A senior U.S. official said that afterwards, President Trump began mediating between Egyptian President al-Sisi and Netanyahu. The two haven't spoken since the start of the war in Gaza. Trump called the Egyptian president and asked him to invite Netanyahu to the summit. Shortly after, Sisi called Netanyahu and invited him. Netanyahu accepted the invitation. Then they disinvited him. And the reason why is because what the fuck do you think is supposed to happen? Obviously, it's a little crazy for Qatar to just like sit there and shake Benjamin Netanyahu's hand, right? Also, this shows you exactly where Sisi is. Donald Trump says jump. He says how high. Donald Trump says bark. Sisi gets on his hands and knees and barks. Remember, okay? British bastard, Trump makes peace in the Mideast and you're still mad? Wait, what? I am saying he is the peace president. He's PP. Okay, that's my goat. He's Mr. PP. What happened? Is this how little you care about everything that's going on? That the only thing you're in here is like an quote unquote own or something? You're like, Trump did the peace, dude. He did the peace. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran are also not present. Neither is Hamas. This does make me a bit concerned. The beast is the U.S. president's armored limo. Yes, I know. Sisi awarded Trump. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has awarded the Nile Collar, Egypt's highest state honor, to President Trump for his contribution to promoting peace and most recently his pivotal role in ending the war in Gaza. El-Sisi's office said. We shall see. I'm Egyptian and I'm embarrassed because of my president. I mean, yeah, well, I'm American. I'm American and Turkish, so I know what that's like. I think there are very few countries on the planet that could be like, nah, I think my president is doing a decent job, you know? Think about it this way. Sisi is more a puppet, so at least you know that your countrymen didn't fucking vote for him. In the same way that we here in the United States of America have to also deal with the idea that there is a decent chunk of the population that fucking loves this guy. I don't know how many people in Egypt love Sisi, but I can tell you it's like 30 to 40% that love Donald Trump, and I think that's objectively a worse situation.
They're among the most powerful countries in the world, the richest countries in the world, and there's never been really an assemblage like what we have today. I don't think I've never seen it anyway. And I want to thank everybody. Azerbaijan. You guys are still getting along, right? We fought for 32 years, and in about 1 hour we settled it, right? And they like each other now, too. That's great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Italy, she's a very strong ruler. We're actually going to be making a speech after this, so this is just a very important signing, but we're doing a signing, then we're doing a speech, and then I may stay behind with the leaders just to talk about that, some things without the press. I want to thank the media for you've been so respectful on this deal. You know the importance of the deal, and I really...
Dude, everything is small fry for this guy. Oh my God, everything. He's just happy that the media, he is just happy that the media is like saying this is good. That like a ceasefire is a good thing. He's like, finally, they're being so nice to me. It's so,
It was so pleasant to watch. I was on the plane for quite a while listening to the various newscasts, and they were all fair. They were talking about how incredible this is. This is an incredible day for the world, let alone the Middle East. So I just wanted to thank the media. They really treated it with respect. I wish you could be like that on other things, but that's perhaps too much to ask for. But on this, tremendous, everybody feels the same. Just tremendous respect, and we appreciate it very much. Can we get the documents, please? Okay. Okay. Okay. This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up. Okay, thank you. You can use my pen if you want. Have a pen? Want to use mine? Okay. Okay. Okay.
it's pretty funny that Trump is signing anything. Like, officially, the U.S. isn't a party of the conflict. So what the hell is he signing? Come on, man. It's time to get real. You know what I mean? First of all, technically, none of the people here are official parties to the conflict, but it doesn't matter. Everybody knows the truth. Everybody knows the truth. And it's not what Trump is saying with his mouth when he says, like, oh, this has been going on for 3,000 years. We've put an end to it. But everybody understands that, of course, it's America that is, like, primarily involved in this. Why else do all of these other fucking countries also sit idly by as this seemingly sovereign foreign state that is a settler colonial enterprise smack dab in the middle of this fucking resource-rich region is capable of being belligerent and attacking 7 fucking countries at the same time? including some of those fucking people that are there, like the Qatar. Remember, Israel directly bombed Qatar, okay, a month ago. Everybody understands why you just have to shut the fuck up. Everybody understands why you just have to sit there and be like, yes, Mr. President, you're doing a great job, Mr. President. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We love you, Mr. President. It is what it is. Yeah, it's all hail Daddy Trump. All right. They're just fucking signing shit. All right.
Joe. So we're going to go and I'm going to say a few words. We'll give you a little speech, and then we're going to meet with the leaders after that and spend a little time together without the media. The media is invited to the speech. I just want to tell you the people behind me and some of the people in the room that are so helpful, but the people behind me are the greatest leaders, most powerful leaders, the richest leaders, frankly. Sometimes it's not politically correct to say that, but I'll say it. The richest in the world that the world has ever seen. And yet when you get to know them, I know every one of them in their own way. And I can say in particular some, because that's the way life works, but some of the greatest people you'll ever meet and people that really care for their country.
Definitely. When I think about virtually all of these guys, that's what I think of. I think of some of the best people there is, okay? There is not a single person there that I would say is like objectively a good person. That's so funny. That's the King of Jordan, for those of you who don't know. Sitting at 5'2" is a British colonial apparatus. Even Marx Carney, yes, especially the liberals, because the liberals that are sitting at this table also present this false reality, this notion that they actually care about law and order, that they actually care about like the international rule-based order that was designed, when they obviously don't. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. There are some that are fine. There are some that are better than others there, right? But like ultimately, it's just like a league of villains.
And why this happened is they all came together and they wanted to get Gaza straightened out. They wanted to get the whole thing straightened out. It got to a point where it was just crazy. And once they got together and once we started talking, it went really, Tamim, it went smoothly. It went so smoothly. You were such a big help, but it went so smoothly that nobody can even believe it, that we're sitting here and getting this all certified out and all done. And everybody's happy about it. Everybody's happy about it, like I've never seen before, actually. I've done other deals, and people don't care as much.
Jesus
big
Christ.
deals. I think they're big deals, but this is something that's taken off like a rocket ship. And it did from the beginning, and I've heard for years, this is the biggest deal. It'll never happen. For years, long before I ran for office, that this is the Middle East. It's
I cannot stress this enough. The Democrats literally wrapped this up as a gift. Not only did they lose the election in part because of their lack of interest in doing this, but the very fact that they didn't do this and then Trump came into office and then did this, especially if it holds, okay, especially if it holds, is just a spectacular fumble. A spectacular fumble. And I don't want to hear it from any of the fucking liberals in the chat that would normally come in here and say shit like, oh, you know, you're just like shitting on the liberals. They have no power in this situation. They had all of the power when they were in charge. Okay. And they didn't, I can't even say they squandered the power, because it doesn't seem like they squandered the power at all. It seems like they wanted this to continue happening. Now the entire fucking world thinks that Donald Trump was capable of bringing about peace in the aftermath of 2 years of genocide. Speaking of breaking from the liberal, socialist, PSL, and PFP candidate Ramsey Robinson announces bid for governor. Okay, man, we're talking about, you know, international events right now. The
biggest, most complicated deal. And also it's the place that could lead to tremendous problems like World War III. They always talked about World War III would start in the Middle East, and that's not going to happen. We don't want it to start anywhere, actually, but it's not going to happen. So I just want to thank everybody, and I'll see you in a little while. And in particular, thank you all. Thank you, Tamim. Mr. General, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great job.
Am I doomer pilled for feeling like there's literally 0% chance this holds? I think the real, the truth nuke doomer pill is that this does hold, and the West Bank encroachment continues, and we go back to business as usual, where there's even more Western colonial control over the Gaza Strip, and no resistance whatsoever from the Palestinian front as they slowly but surely go back to a life of being victim to slow burn ethnic cleansing, which heats up every now and then. When Israel does like sieges or whatever, as they did over and over again. And they continue to make the Strip uninhabitable for any Palestinian human being. And we just kick the can back down the road, and the rest of the world turns a blind eye to it. Because the position that many of you have arrived at after 2 years of genocide, like the realities that you started recognizing after 2 years of genocide, were realities that already existed, right? Many people saw what Israel was doing and wanted to read further. And then they realized, oh my God, everything I've been taught about this situation was wrong, right? But you have to remember, for 75 years prior to October 7, the conditions were still horrible for Palestinians. You know? So they were able to get away with it. Israel was able to get away with it because the world did not know. The world did not know what was going on. There was a sophisticated messaging apparatus that they took advantage of. It was a uniparty issue. It was seen as a uniparty issue. I think that's the real scary outcome of this, is that people go, come on, man. That's it. The ceasefire happened. What more do you want? It's like, you don't just move on from a genocide. Like, there needs to be a process. There needs to be truth and reconciliation. There needs to be a process of restitution. The apartheid must end. The occupation must end. Palestinians must get sovereignty. And it's very obvious to me that just like with the symbolic state recognition, conditional state recognition from Western nations, this is America basically doing the same shit that they did, or the same exact thing that like France did, you know, but in their own way, which is, all right, we packed it up. No more genocide. Now shut the fuck up.
Well, thank you very much.
Why do you think Israel's willing to do a ceasefire after 2 years? There is no Israel's willing to do anything. There could be two reasons. If the ceasefire is fake and they're just simply biding their time, they're just going to go back to business as usual. But it seems like this will hold. And the reason why it will seemingly hold is because America has finally told Israel it's done. Okay? That's it.
It's a great honor. I appreciate it very much, Mr. President. Mr. General, Mr. President. Great General, great President. Thank you very much. This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been...
What the fuck? Why did it cut?
...have been returned. Together we've achieved what everybody said was impossible. There's few rows and standing behind me. I don't know why they chose to stand, but I promise I'll make it short, okay?
Anyway, here, this is Barack Ravid, but Barack Ravid with the scoops once again. IDF's very own Barack Ravid. Direct meeting between Trump envoys and Hamas leaders sealed the Gaza deal. An unusual and dramatic meeting last night between President Trump's envoys and Hamas leaders helped get the Gaza peace deal across the line. Three sources with direct knowledge tell Axios why it matters. One barrier to a deal was that Hamas leaders feared Israel would resume the war once its hostages were freed. In order to deliver a deal, one of the sources contended, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner had to meet the Hamas leaders in person and directly assure them that Trump won't let that happen as long as the group held up its side of the deal. A day earlier, Trump had privately granted permission for Witkoff and Kushner to meet Hamas leaders if necessary to seal a deal when they met in the Oval Office before the pair departed for Egypt. After arriving in Sharm el-Sheikh, Witkoff informed the Qatari and Egyptian and Turkish mediators about Trump's green light. On Wednesday night around 11 p.m. local time, the Qatari mediators came to Witkoff's villa at the Four Seasons, said there was a stalemate in the talks, and asked if the U.S. envoys were ready to meet Hamas, according to one of the sources. We think that if you meet them and shake their hand, there will be a deal, a senior Qatari official told Witkoff. Behind the scenes, several minutes later, Witkoff and Kushner walked into another villa at the Red Sea resort. Arrayed inside were the Egyptian and Turkish intelligence chiefs, senior Qatari officials, and four most senior Hamas leaders involved in the negotiations. The Hamas team was led by Khalil al-Hayya, who had survived an Israeli assassination attempt in Doha 3 weeks earlier. In a meeting lasting around 45 minutes, Witkoff told the Hamas officials the hostages were now more of a liability than an asset for you. It was time to move on with the first phase of the deal and bring people home on both sides of the border, he said, according to one of the sources. Hayya asked if Witkoff and Kushner had a message from Trump. President Trump's message is that you will be treated fairly and that he stands behind all 20 points of his peace plan and will make sure that they're all implemented, Witkoff said, according to the source. When the meeting ended, the Hamas leaders went to a separate room with the Egyptian, Qatari, and Turkish mediators. Several minutes later, Egyptian spy chief Hassan Rashad returned with his Turkish and Qatari counterparts. Based on the meeting we have a deal, he told Witkoff and Kushner. Flashback, the meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh was the second significant direct engagement between the Trump admin and Hamas. In March, U.S. hostage envoy Adam Baylor held an unprecedented meeting with Hamas leaders in Doha in an effort to free American hostage Idan Alexander and retrieve the bodies of 4 other Americans kidnapped by the group. The deal faltered in part due to strong opposition from the Israeli government, which was initially in the dark about the direct negotiations. The bottom line, the willingness of Witkoff and Kushner to meet Hamas leaders despite the political risks involved demonstrated to the group that the U.S. was serious about getting and enforcing a deal, one of the sources contended. This is why when President Trump's envoys gave their word that this deal will be fully enforced, they believe it. It seems to me like the barbaric monsters in the way that they were presented were seen as much more reasonable than the way that they're presented in the media, right? I wonder why. The U.S. negotiated directly with Hamas to get this deal. Just more proof of how stupid it is to avoid direct negotiations with Palestinians is the only way to get things done. Of course, MIT MIT seems to be directly pretty involved in this, as Jeremy Scahill alluded to the interview. Yes, because Milli İstihbarat Teşkilatı, which is the CIA of Turkey, that's what this chatter is talking about, is directly involved in the talks because they're one of the forces in the region that the Hamas and all of the Palestinian resistance forces actually have to trust more than like the Saudis. You know what I mean? Like in terms of the Gulf leadership, I would say out of all the Gulf states, Qatar is the only one that has like some kind of legitimacy in the eyes of the Palestinian resistance groups. And then out of all the other regional actors, the one that they definitely abide by or definitely think would give them a fair shake, whether it's correct or not, this is just their assessment, is I would say the Turkish intelligence. Trump, I've known so many of you for so long. You're friends of mine. You're great people. I have a couple of people I don't like in particular, but I won't tell you who.
Sprint to this deal began less than 3 weeks ago on the sidelines of the United Nations in New York. I met with many of the people in this room, and it all just started coming together. I've known so many of you for so long. You're friends of mine. You're great people. I have a couple I don't like in particular, but I won't tell you who. I have actually a few of them I don't like at all, but you'll never find out who they are. Well, maybe you will, come to think of it. The final...
I honestly feel like Trump only wanted this deal for Nobel and now seems not to really care to be there. No, I don't think it's just that. I think the other reason is because, look, it's impossible to fully understand why Trump is doing this, okay? But you have to start with his motivations. Donald Trump's primary motivation always is getting his money up and not his funny up, okay? He doesn't care about anything other than himself. That much is obviously clear. He certainly doesn't care about, like, peace for the sake of sparing lives that could have been continued to be dominated by Israeli incursion and the Israeli genocide against the Palestinians. He obviously just cares about deals. He cares about deal making. He cares about being seen as a deal maker. He cares about being seen as a powerful figure. And I think ultimately he cares about making money, not just for himself, but also for his EU is greater than you. You are just a cringe communist. Oh, EU is greater than NA. I think in some ways, Europe and with its history and with its political movements is better than the United States of America. But unfortunately, the European Union and European countries are basically servile, like a dog, to our disgusting, monstrous piece of shit government. There have been great movements that come out of Europe. Like, you see what people are doing in Spain, you see what people are doing in Italy, and you see the protests everywhere, and it inspires confidence, but just not great. Anyway, look, let's keep going. What I was going to talk about is, like, if you're thinking about Trump's main motivations here, I think it's fucking deal making. Okay. I think it's ultimately deal making. He wants to make deals and he wants to build shit. Okay. He wants to build shit in the region. He wants to build shit in Gaza potentially. Like, that's what he wants to do. He wants to make money. And it's wild because, like, I guess that has led to, at least in the interim, a more peaceful outcome for the Palestinians, a moment of respite for the Palestinians, than the other side of the equation, which is like unrestrained, ultra-Zionist social conditioning and firm commitment to Israel. Trump recognized that Israel's popularity was waning, even in his own base. He recognized that Israel's popularity was waning all around the world. And he openly stated it. He said, we're going to make Israel popular again. Israel's lost a lot of support around the world. He said that. He said that straight up. So look no further than that if you want to understand where he's coming from. Trump points at UAE official during photo op and says, a lot of cash, unlimited cash. Yeah, he also loves this shit. Like, that's why he keeps hyping up how much money they have. He loves it. He just keeps saying, like, these guys, they have so much money. It's so good. I love how much money they have. Why does he keep pulling him like that? He's such a freak, dude. A lot of cash, unlimited cash. I think the attack on Qatar mattered a lot in Trump moving on this. He really values both personally, financially, and politically the relationship between the U.S. and Gulf countries. Almost immediately afterwards, he gave Qatar a security agreement equal to an Article 5, and he made Netanyahu apologize publicly in front of everyone. Yeah. I think Israel might have, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I think Israel bombing Qatar after Qatar had already bribed Donald Trump directly. Big mistake. Because Miriam Adelson gave Donald Trump $250 million. That goes a long way. Qatar gave him $400 million in the form of a plane. That also goes a long fucking way, which is precisely the reason why when that happened, if you remember, I said, look, it's transparent corruption. Everybody understands this is fucking bribery, okay? But if this actually moderates Trump's tone, if you go back and listen to my commentary at the time, when everybody was talking about the plane, what did I say? I said, if this somehow makes Donald Trump's tone in the region a little bit more moderate, then I don't even give a fuck, okay? I'm not saying that because my main oilers, my main funders are the royalty of Qatar, okay? The Piker Broadcasting Service is funded by you, the viewers, and it's for you, the viewers, okay? And by that, I mean your gifted subscriptions come directly from the royal family of Qatar and the glorious nation of Qatar. Qatari Cat with 100 gifted subs. There it is. There it is. W bribes. W bribes. Keep talking about that, but Van Jones needs to be taking you seriously. Yeah, I know. Anthony Blinken and then Andrea Mitchell. Oh my God, this conversation is going to brick my brain. Okay. Ay, ay, ay. I think some Israeli advocates hope that images of Hamas acting violently towards collaborators or criminals or settling scores would turn Trump off and he would greenlight the restart of the war. That was a bad bet. Interestingly, Trump, though he wallows in a lot of atrocity propaganda, is one of the only powerful Western leaders who treats Hamas not as some barbaric alien being, but an organization with interests and rationales like anybody else. He genuinely seeks to understand why they do what they do, which very few people do. Kind of jarring. To which Megaphonics responded with, Hassan the Hun had a take on stream recently that seems prescient. While previous presidents, most of all Biden, have an ideological foundation for defending Israel, Trump's main motivator, despite his obvious rampant Islamophobia, seems to be personal wins and back scratching. He's obviously stuck his flag firmly on the pro-Israel side for ages, but you don't push for a ceasefire deal such as this and say the things he said recently without some level of transactional detachment from the core of the matter. His interest is only for the deal to hold now. Yeah. Netflix, BBC, and others sent legal letter over Israel film boycott signed by Joaquin Phoenix, Olivia Colman, highly likely to be a litigation risk. Ay, ay, ay. All right, we're going to continue with the speech in a second. But yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's such an insane thing to say, but it's more so a sign of how awful and how deteriorated global politics are, that honestly, the person who is simply bribable and financially motivated to push for a ceasefire is seemingly better than the person who is ideologically committed to the project of Israel, the project of greater Israel. Like, even the fact that you have Steve Witkoff, who is there to speak to the Israelis, as opposed to Brett McGurk, is seemingly better. Steve Witkoff also cares about Israel, right? Like, obviously, he does. Like, in his private life, in his personal life, he does care about Israel. But he is basically Trump, right? He is there to speak on behalf of Trump. And as a person who is there to speak on behalf of Trump, while they do engage in like wheeling and dealing, and they did this with like Edan Alexander, for example, ultimately, it's obvious that like Steve Witkoff has less ideological zealotry here than fucking Brett McGurk does. Brett McGurk has worked for numerous administrations, and his job has always been to place Israel's priorities higher than even America's priorities, right? It's that simple. Sometimes guys like that are not going to be able to push the conversation to where it needs to go. The thing is, Trump outsourced the ideological Zionism to his advisors, who are ultimately obsequious to Trump personally. So when Trump says he wants something done, they find a way to make it work. Biden was personally invested in Zionism and surrounded himself with similar people, so it went nowhere. Yeah. Like Anthony Blinken, Brett McGurk, Amos Hochstein, like these guys are straight up, they've either literally almost, I think, served in the IDF, or they are very committed to the project of Zionism. Joe Biden is very committed to the project of Zionism, right? Like, that's a personal investment that these guys have, as opposed to Trump, who doesn't give a shit about anything. So in this instance, like, narcissism and glad handling unironically can make him fucking take a different approach to the situation than like an administration that is comprised entirely of people who are committed to Israel. Straight up. And before people say, is it religious? Like, Biden is Catholic. By and large, it's like the least pro-Israel Christian faction out there. What are you talking about? I don't think Brett McGurk is Jewish either, if that's what you're like trying to fucking figure out. Because like, it don't matter. For these guys, for a lot of these guys, I don't think you understand, like, Zionism is not like something that is baked into their DNA because of their fucking religious affiliation. It's not because they're Jewish, is what I mean. Is Brett McGurk even Jewish? I mean, look at Mike Huckabee. He's one of the most rabid fucking freaks out there. I mean, his last name has Mick in it, so I don't think he's Jewish, but yeah, he's Irish, and he's either WASP or WASP and a Protestant or fucking Catholic. Not that it fucking matters. That's what I'm trying to explain. This is not like this is not a Jewish thing at all. It's just, if it was simply just the Jewish thing, then you wouldn't have the most rabid Christian evangelical Zionists in this country.
We are not going to keep you standing for long. These are great leaders. After years of suffering and bloodshed, the war in Gaza is over. Humanitarian aid is now...
Libs were right. You were wrong in saying Kamala would be the same as Trump on Israel-Palestine. Trump is better law. Oh, come on, man. I mean, let's not lose sight of the reality, okay? Like, let's not lose sight of the reality that he did, for 8 additional months, allow Israel to murder and starve the Palestinians, okay? Yeah. We're not giving credit to Adolf Hitler for killing Adolf Hitler, okay?
Pouring in, including hundreds of truckloads of food.
What the fuck? Wait.
Medical equipment.
Hostages freed. Biden 135, Trump 20. Shut the fuck up. Ain't no way. Ain't no way that's what liberals are doing. Oh my God. Oh my fucking Lord. Oh my Lord. Holy goddamn moly. This is crazy.
Equipment and other supplies, much of it paid for by people in this room. Civilians are returning to their homes. The hostages are reuniting. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just watching it backstage. The level of love and sorrow, I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing when you see they haven't seen their mother, their father. They haven't seen them in such a long time, and they lived in a tunnel, a very little tunnel, very deep. And the level of love is just incredible. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's, in one sense, it's so horrible that it could have taken place, but in another sense, it's so beautiful to see a new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins. The rebuilding is maybe going to be the easiest part. I think we've done a lot of the hardest part because the rest comes together. We all know how to rebuild, and we know how to build better than anybody in the world. I want to express my tremendous gratitude to the Arab and Muslim nations who helped make this incredible breakthrough possible. And you really did. To President El-Sisi of Egypt, who is so
Can you debunk this
generously
video?
hosting
Thank
us
you. What the
today.
fuck is garbage?
I want to thank you for
Oh
the
my
outstanding
fucking
job.
God. Brother. You need to be fucking yeeted out of orbit permanently. Brother, are we serious? They're always serious. This is what they always care about. Have you heard Red Scare talk with Nick Fuentes? Anna's first question is about you and brings you up a lot. She's obsessed with you. I'm not trying to upset you, but why haven't you acknowledged that? Because I thought I thought people would be a little bit more locked into what's going on currently. You know, like this is a fairly historic world event. Anyway, let's just continue.
Your country is doing in so many different ways and for helping us so much with this peace agreement. I also want to thank the president for the escort of 6 fighter jets escort in. That was very impressive. But Air Force One it was covered with Egyptian desert just a few months ago. If you think about it, just a few months ago it was Egyptian desert, and now it was just a few feet off our window. And it was a spectacular sight, and I appreciate it very much. Really, that was pretty good. You got our people by surprise. I don't know if they were thrilled right at the beginning. I also want to give a very special thanks to the Emir of Qatar, a man who's outstanding. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, long before politics, and he's a fantastically respected man. His Highness Sheikh Tamim is respected by everybody. He's respected by everybody and in the most positive way, not only because of power, because of his heart. He's got a tremendous heart, and he's a great leader, and his country loves him. Thank you very much for being here. It's an honor. So I want to thank you very much and say hello to your wife, your beautiful wife, and it's great to be with you. Always there. When I need him, he's always there. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And
Turkeys
I
at the
also
table.
want to thank, I just spoke to him on the phone, His Royal Highness Crown Prince Mohammed, Saudi Arabia, a special friend of mine. Boy, he's come so long and so far, and he's doing a fantastic job for his country. And I want to just thank him. And His Highness Sheikh Mohammed of the United Arab Emirates.
You're my favorite terrorist. It's on. I love you. I feel like there's way better terrorists than me out there. Like if there was like a tier list of freedom fighters, I would say I'm nowhere near the top.
Is here. Where? He's here someplace.
Where?
Oh, he's not here, but he's here in spirit. I can tell you that. And he's been another one. He's been absolutely incredible, and we appreciate it very much. And His Majesty King Abdullah of Jordan. And thank you very much, King Abdul of Jordan. He's here. Thank you. Thank you. Would you like to say what you said the other day? I think it was so nice. Please.
Thank you very much, my dear President Trump, my dear brother President Fatil Sisi of Egypt, Majesty's Highness.
Bro, am I crazy? It feels like it feels like there is an environment of uncertainty and fear here. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, "Oh God, oh okay, yes, I love you, Mr. President. I told you in confidence that I love you." That's is crazy.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and a very good evening. Well, I would say today is one of the greatest days in contemporary history because peace has been achieved after untiring efforts led by President Trump, who is genuinely a man of peace, who has relentlessly and untiringly worked throughout these months, day in and day out, to make this.
Bro, I can't get over the the audacity, the performance, the spectacle. Like, Gaza is reduced to fucking rubble. Israel has deployed 13 atom bombs worth of munitions on this fucking tiny sliver of land. Okay? On this tiny sliver of land. And you have all of these world leaders that are like patting themselves on the back, talking about how fucking spectacular this is, how peaceful Trump is. It's Trump's weapons. It's the American weapons that caused this death and destruction, this genocide. And virtually all of these leaders have to fucking sit there and act as though, you know, what we all saw happening did not actually happen. And that now we have finally gotten to a position where we've finally gotten to a place where, like, oh, pure peace is taking place. It's taking place. Is I don't know what you're doing. Okay, what do you want? What do you want? Huh? Okay. The chutzpah, if you will. Is that woman covering her nostrils with the smell from Trump? I don't know what the fuck Georgia Maloney is doing, to be fair. I don't even know what she's doing there. I don't know what she's doing in general. Also, $38 billion. The U.S. could have forced Israel to accept the ceasefire 2 years ago. Instead, it spent $38 billion enabling Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza and fighting a regional war on Israel's behalf. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about Maloney, why the fuck is the FIFA president there, bro? That's even more crazy. People were saying, what's his face? Infantino or whatever is there too. The fuck's he doing? I guess he's just like, it's the corruption summit. So he has to be there. You know what I mean? He's like, if there's corruption happening anywhere, you know FIFA has to take a role.
World, a place to live with peace and prosperity. I would say that Pakistan had nominated President Donald Trump for Nobel Peace Prize for his outstanding, extraordinary contributions to first stop war between India and Pakistan and then achieve ceasefire along with his very wonderful team. And today, again, I would like to nominate this great president for Nobel Peace Prize because I genuinely feel that he is the most genuine and most wonderful candidate.
Okay, I can't, dude. This level of dick sucking. Oh my God, he keeps going. Oh my God. If you guys really wanted me to watch that, bro, this is porn, okay? This is pornography. He is blowing bubbles on it. Okay, I can't. I don't want to watch like all of the fucking leaders glazing.
It's good to have you. And so many others. I really have a list here. This first three rows and what's standing behind me, I don't know why they...
Yeah, watch. Trump asked, where's the UK? Starmer raised his hand. Trump called him on the stage, making him think he was going to speak. Oh my God. It is a humiliation ritual, dude.
Come here. Is everything going good? Very good. It's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic.
What? Oh my God. Oh my God.
All came in like 20-minute notice, and I...
Brother, are you for real? And then Mark Carney starts laughing. Look at him.
Came in like...
Look at Mark Carney's face.
20-minute notice.
Trump is doing to these world leaders what all of my haters think, and many people who have just seen clips think I'm doing to Kaya. He's doing place training, dude. He said, get back to your spot. God damn. Servile, dude. Fucking servile. He said, place. Oh, no. Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. What the fuck? How is this any different? How is this fucking any different than like the divine right of kings? I mean, actually, explain to me how what's happening here has even the auspices of diplomacy, has like any, like what's going on here is America is the king of the world and everyone is paying tribute. Everyone demonstrates fealty. Everyone genuflects. That's it.
And I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others. United Kingdom.
Oh my God. It's just like bad optically. It's just bad in general. I mean, we got to run it back one more time.
Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Come here. Is everything going good? These people all came in like 20-minute notice. And I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others.
Oh my God. You know what's really funny? Is that all like the England first, mate. Fucking Britland first, mate. What are you fucking saying then? They all love Trump. And they hate Keir Starmer. And the irony is Nigel Farage would be doing the same thing, if not even worse. Okay? Like, this is... You guys can fucking keep running around being like, we gotta defend England, lads. But you are literally a vassal state, dude. Look, and I'm not saying this in a like a flex way. Obviously, my president is a fucking moron. It is crazy, bro. Starmer fucking posted it. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is like this has to be a humiliation ritual, honestly. Oh, they're so cucked. It's crazy. I feel like everyone has just lost their damn minds here.
Chose to stand, but that's there. They're going to be very famous tomorrow. We have the Arab League is represented.
He's a moron, but your president has balls, unlike the loser on scene. No, he doesn't have balls, chatter. He's the president of America. That's it. That's the only reason why he gets to do that. Okay? It's just the amount of global power that he has because of his position. The difference is, this has always been the case. This has always been the case. However, while this has always been the case, in previous iterations of quote unquote diplomacy, America at least like tried to entertain the notion of parity, equality, like caring about the sovereignty of other countries. Trump just doesn't play that. Like I said, quiet part out loud. Do with that information what you will. If you live in one of these countries, do with that information what you will. But this has always been the case.
By His Excellency, and thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much. We have Armenia. Oh, and Azerbaijan. That's a
tricky one. Oh, we saved him. Oh, yeah. He's just like, it's a glaze sesh. Only because 11 nuclear aircraft carriers, Lamafao. I mean, I know, that's what it is.
Right, and we appreciate it, and we're behind you 100%. That's Hungary. India is a great country with a very good friend of mine at the top, and he's just done a fantastic job, and I think that...
Anyway, there is something I want to fucking show you as well. Where is it? There was another thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, this moment, which is crazy. This is from Eli Clifton, senior advisor at Quincy Institute, referring to what Trump said here, which once again, openly saying the fucking quiet part out loud. I actually asked Miriam Adelson, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once. I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That means it might mean Israel.
Broken promises from many other American presidents, you know that. They kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. They There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got 60 billion in the bank, 60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in and we would do.
Bro, literally, this is like, listen. Think about what he is doing to all of those other world leaders. Now think about who he actually behaves servile to. This is literally like, ow, how do I sit around and act as though this is not like, how do I sit around and act as though this is normal in any way, shape, or form? This is the guy that all the Groypers loved, by the way. This is the guy that all the fucking, anti-Semitic Groypers who were like, yeah, that's my bold, brave president. He's over here in Israel being like, I love Miriam Adelson. She gave me so much money. She loves Israel more than she loves America, but that's fine by me because I also love money. I love money. I talk to them every day. I used to talk to Sheldon, and Sheldon would dog walk me. He would make me bark like a dog, a little dog. I'd go like a dog.
But they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen.
The saddest thing is you all still voted for him. First of all, what do you mean you all? You're in a community where virtually no one, I assume, unless they're fucking haters that are simply hate watching currently, voted for Donald Trump, okay?
Please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must say. We love.
I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, she loves Israel more than the United States of America. That's right. I'm going to get her in trouble. If you said this, you would get banned. Yeah. It's not. Trump has advanced the cause. He's no longer saying dual loyalty. He's saying single loyalty. Oh, Miriam Adelson, she doesn't give a fuck about America. Look what she did to the Dallas Mavericks. My beautiful Dallas Mavericks. Look what she did. She does not care about Texas. She cares only about Israel. Israel first, she said, and I said, me too. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great honor. Great honor. She's a wonderful woman.
What is this? Sorry, ice cream vendor trickster. This is real life. Watermelon seller gets the girl. Turkish President Erdogan tells Italian Prime Minister Meloni she looks good, but she should quit smoking during their meeting at the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit. What the fuck?
From the plane.
Uçakta inerken görmüştüm
We arrived
sizi.
together.
Oh, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
Stop smoking sometime.
I know. I don't want to kill.
He just straight up said, yeah, no, she looks great, but she got to stop. I got to make her quit the cigarettes. That's what he said. That's like a direct translation. Bro, why did he grab Macron like that? Dude, you have to remember, for a lot of these guys, they love, especially Erdogan loves doing the alpha shit. It's the same reason why Trump also pulls you in when he's like shaking people's hands. If you notice, like he did that with the UAE guy. Erdogan does that all the time. Sometimes he'll even like grab your finger like this and just clasp onto it. It's very weird. But it's all like a power play for these guys. And when you think about it, he's got like grandpa strength too, probably. He's got grandpa grip strength. The way they interact feels insane for heads of state. Erdogan is 70. Why are his mannerisms that of a 100-year-old? I think being in charge ages you quite a bit. Galaksi liderine bak be. Reis. The GOAT. Anyway, there's always someone with a bigger dick in that fucking room. And obviously, while Donald Trump seemingly has the dominance over every single one of these nation leaders, ultimately, the guy that he is servile to is money first and foremost, and seemingly money coming from Miriam fucking Adelson.
Pakistan and India are going to live very nicely together, right? That's not a very, they are. And they're two great, I'd say, leaders, great leaders, as far as I'm concerned. Indonesia, we covered, and I just want to say that...
this is Erdogan doing the finger grab. This was to Macron, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Macron tried to win the handshake battle. Erdogan turned it into a judo move. He does this all the time. It's so fucking stupid. It's so dumb. The New York Times, Atlantic, WAPO, CNN, Guardian, all others have refused to sign Pete Hegseth's new rules on reporting from the Pentagon. As far as I can tell, only OAN has signed it. I guess this is Hegseth waving goodbye to their access to the Pentagon and other DoD facilities. Oh my God. I can't believe that this is like... It's a real dire state of affairs when I feel like it's a moment of solace to cover international politics as opposed to our domestic politics, because our domestic politics are so fucked that sometimes American foreign policy, which is death, destruction, and genocide, seems more stable. A real sign of the times, dude. Everything is so bad. I don't know how else to describe it other than everything sucks. And I do feel like no one is aware of how bad things truly are. People are just sleepwalking. They are completely oblivious.
That's a big country, a powerful country. It does...
The foreign minister, Hakan Fidan, apparently they say he's the leader of the leader of...
A very successful...
I love when our famous rapist president acts as though he's worried about how his language is going to make people think he's a misogynist. They don't let you do it. They don't let you say beautiful woman. I say it anyway. Beautiful young woman. She's so pretty. She's so beautiful. Like, what are we doing, man? What the fuck's going on right now?
Very successful politician. We have Norway. Oh, Norway. Norway. What happened, Norway? What happened? Are you guys working on him with respect to the GDP? We'll get close. We'll get close.
He's talking about the NATO deal. He's talking about how Spain refused to abide by the increase in military spending. That's what he's bringing up here. Spain. Yeah, you might get close. Maybe 2%, maybe 3%, maybe 5%.
But it's perhaps the wealthiest and most powerful group of nations ever assembled at one time, which is a big thing. We have achieved together in recent days.
Yeah, blowing a 13-colony lead aside, the United Kingdom is literally, yes, the empire in which the sun never set. Think about that. Think about that for a moment. And then think about what just happened.
A change that really is historic, and it's going to be remembered forever. And I want to thank the American team for their amazing work, and I want to thank... I think he'll go down as the greatest.
They literally created Israel, man. They are responsible, first and foremost, for the creation of Israel. And America's responsible for the continuation of Israel's domination in the region. But, like, oh, it's just the worst.
Secretary of State in the history of our country. I really believe that, Marco, or I wouldn't say it. Marco Rubio, I wouldn't say it. Maybe I would. You're doing a great job. I'll tell you, he's on course to do it. We've done a lot of work in 9 months. We've done a lot of work. I say that, 1 year ago, a little more, but 1 year ago, America, the United States of America was was a dead country. The king told me, and I use that, he said, sir, 1 year ago, it was a dead country. Today, you have the hottest country anywhere in the world, and it is. It's the hottest country. So many investors are here. We have over $17 trillion being invested in the United States, which is a record that nobody has ever beaten. I don't think anybody will. And we still have 4 months to go before it's a year. So in 8 months, we have over 17 trillion. We're actually very close to $18 trillion. There's never been, as an example, the previous administration at less than $1 trillion over 4 years. We have, we're close to breaking $18 trillion in 8 months. That's pretty amazing. No country's ever done that. I want to also thank Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and my son-in-law and a great guy, Jared Kushner. And I even have my daughter here, Ivanka. Ivanka, please stand up. Ivanka's here. Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Ivanka. We have a great team, and we have, as you know, incredible people in this room, setting aside their differences, seeking common ground, and pursuing a better world for all of us. And that spirit's my dream, that we all get together and enjoy our life. And we're going to put some of you on the Board of Peace. Everybody wants to be on the Board of Peace. They said, would you be the chairman? I say, I'm pretty busy too. But whatever we can do to have peace in the Middle East, it's worth it. But everybody wants to go on the Board of Peace, so we're probably going to enlarge it. We're going to get, and the leaders, the top people, the top leaders, they want to be on the board.
I think while his narcissism and his grand desire to do deal making and be seen as like a deal maker, a peace guy, and his interest in like doing PR for Israel might have pushed the Trump administration over the finish line to press Israel to finally say like it's over. Having said that, he is such a malleable figure that do I think that this Board of Peace is actually going to be anything but like a British viceroy that is tasked with dominating the Palestinians at the behest of Israel? Like, it's the most easily manipulated group of people, especially with Trump. Tony Blair already is like an Omega Zionist. I mean, he is directly working with Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison has him by the balls, $300 million to the Blair Institute. Tony Blair was also working with Boston Consulting Group when they were putting forward different plans of what they can do post-ethnic cleansing completion of the Gaza Strip. He also played a role in the Gaza Holocaust Fund, GHF, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. All of that, like, regardless of Benjamin Netanyahu saying Tony Blair is a non-starter, I think that there is not a lot of friction between Tony Blair and Zionists in general in terms of their grand design on how to dominate the Palestinians. Benjamin Netanyahu, yeah, here's Edinger Mentum. If this ceasefire holds, Donald Trump will have accomplished something that his own opponents spent years saying was so profoundly unachievable that it made endless taxpayer-supported war the only option. They will have nobody to blame but themselves. The question ahead now is if they go with the Blinken CYA line, that this deal was a product of Trump following through with the conflicts his admin started, a blatant lie given that the deal was reached through pressure on Netanyahu, or finally admit that Biden was inept. There's still a lot of daylight to be found. The deal's end goal is making Gaza a Qatari economic colony run by Tony Blair, but that's never going to become an issue if the party line is the only mistake we made was not bombing Iran earlier. No, BCG is Boston Consulting Group. Is it a subsidiary of Bain? I didn't, in regards to, can be found in regards to the deal's end goal of making, yeah. It's true that all is doing at the moment is motivated by his fucking Nobel Peace Prize. I don't think it's just that. I thought BCG was separate from Bain. I mean, all these guys have the same ambitions. All these consulting groups, they are virtually identical. BCG is unique because Benjamin Netanyahu used to work there, however, and they've done a lot with Israel. I thought maybe Bain and BCG merged or something because someone was saying BCG equals Bain. Bain is where Mitt Romney was at. New York Times op-ed affirming what you said earlier. Israel's botched attempt to assassinate members of the Hamas leadership in Qatar began a cascade of events that led Trump and his Qatari, Egyptian, and Turkish counterparts to pressure Israel and Hamas into signing onto a framework agreement. Yeah, I think one of the biggest missteps here was Benjamin Netanyahu bombing Qatar after Qatar had given Trump a $400 million jet. I know that sounds so stupid, but this goes back to Trump 1. Okay? When under Trump 1, the only country in the Gulf Cooperative Council that didn't actually directly glad handle and directly pump bribes into Jared Kushner was Qatar. And they realized then, oh my God, we just have to pay the piper. Like, this is just how it is. Okay. So this time they did, and it's paying dividends. I'm not even kidding when I say this. I think Qatar giving Donald Trump a straightforward bribe played a big role. The uncomfortable truth about Netanyahu's victory. We'll get to that in a second.
Peace, a beautiful term. At first I wasn't sure, and then I realized how beautiful it is. And for the people of Gaza, the focus now must be on restoring the basics of a good life. We're going to have a lot of money coming into Gaza and a lot of rebuilding and building. It's not so much rebuilding, it's really building, cleaning up and building. And I'm pleased to announce that numerous countries of great wealth and power and dignity have come forward to me and just today and over the last week to say they want to help in the reconstruction of Gaza, putting up whatever money is necessary. And the money is, of course, it's a lot of money, but it's not much compared to the value or the wealth of these tremendous countries. And they are ensuring stability and success in the Middle East. So when you think about it, it's a very, very small amount of money is necessary, relatively speaking. And as those commitments are made, I'm going to let the world know who is doing it, because they really deserve great credit for doing it. And they're going to do something that's really monumental. This is a monumental day. This is a monumental moment in the history of the world beyond the Middle East. We've all agreed that we will reach the Middle East's incredible destiny, a safe and prosperous and beautiful crossroads of culture and political whims. This will be maybe the greatest deal of them all, period. And I want to thank all of you and all of these great nations and this region for what it's gone through and all of the fights it's had, or life over death and hope over strife and harmony over hatred. That's what we want. We want it to be that way, because together we're going to forge a magnificent, great.
I can't, like, once again, they're having this kind of conversation, and it's like it's ashes. Gaza is reduced to rubble. Millions of people are basically trying to get back to their homes, only to find out that their homes no longer exist. They're trying to rebuild it to the best of their ability. And these fucking assholes came from thousands of miles away. No interest in like rebuilding. No interest in immediately trying to set up like a forensic examination of what took place. Okay? And they're just over here, you know, slapping each other's butts, being like, we did it. We did it. It's like, dude, you did it. Yes. You did the first thing. You did the first thing. You caused, you allowed Israel to destroy Gaza. You allowed Israel to kill so many people. And then now you made Israel stop, because it got to a point where the rest of the world was questioning whether they even had a democratic process at all. I can't believe it, man. I just, it feels so depraved. Damn right, it's called war. Hamas is defeated. I mean, objectively untrue in every capacity, by the way. Like, this is, not only is it not a war, it's a genocide. And even beyond the genocide, it's an apartheid, which of course is going to create a retaliation no matter what. But also, on top of that, the idea that Hamas is defeated is also fucking stupid, because Hamas itself is just a name, okay? The notion that, like, there is no more Palestinian resistance against Israeli occupation is silly. It's stupid. It's not correct. And even in its current formation as Hamas, very clearly they are still in operation. I don't know what these guys, like, I don't understand it. I really don't understand how you can look at the events that have transpired and still have this kind of attitude. You know? I don't understand how you can still maintain this position after 2 years of genocide. Can you explain why people continue to say Hamas was backed by Iran? Asking because I have Democrat friends who keep saying that just to justify what has happened. Yeah, those people are fucking monsters. But the reason why they say that is because Hamas, despite being a Sunni emancipatory group inside of the boundaries of historic Palestine, have gotten logistical help and even in some instances training from Iran, as they are a part of the Iranian axis of resistance against the United States and Israel in the region. But none of that is a justification for Israel's behavior. There is no justification for genocide. That's why the term matters. Except I'm beginning to realize that there are people who will recognize the term and say the term and then simultaneously say, well, you know, maybe some genocides are justifiable. Because I feel like that's where we're getting to. I feel like that's where we're at. Where people basically have decided, actually, you know, genocide is real, but also maybe it's justifiable. Terrifying prospect. Anyway, Trump went to Israel and addressed the Israeli Knesset.
We are coming on the air with breaking news from the Middle East. President Trump addressing Israel's parliament right now following the overnight release of all living hostages in Gaza, a moment more than 2 years in the making and a key step in the first phase of the president's path to peace agreed to by both Israel and Hamas. President Trump addressing the parliament there in Israel. Let's listen in.
Of renewed faith and, above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
What?
After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of
Hamas originally was put into power by Israel and Bibi in 2006, not Iran. Aren't people? No, that's not true. Hamas was not originally put into power by Israel. No, Hamas has gotten funding from Israel throughout time, but that doesn't mean key takeaway, don't mess with Jews. Pickle Rick 305 says key takeaway, don't mess with Jews. Brother, how do you not even exhibit a little bit of a fucking fraction of shame after 2 years of genocide? And you still actively connect Israel's actions with Jews and Judaism. It's such a fucking idiotic proposition that literally leads to unimaginable amounts of anti-Semitism. Okay? It's so stupid. It's like if there were, you know, if I was running around being like, I'm Muslim, and if you don't fuck with, ISIS proves, don't mess with the Muslims. Al-Qaeda proves, don't mess with the Muslims. Like if I was running around saying that and then turning around and being like, well, if you criticize ISIS or Al-Qaeda, seemingly you are Islamophobic. It's fucking insane. As far as the first guy's point that he was responding to, okay. No, it's not true. Hamas wasn't put into power by Israel. Hamas won elections because Israel's lapdogs in the Fatah party were roundly despised by the Palestinian population at that point. It was America that pushed for elections, even though Fatah and the PA said, let's not do elections yet because people don't trust us. This was in the aftermath of the so-called peace process that had led to Israel basically cutting up the West Bank, which was illegally occupied by Israel and is still illegally occupied by Israel. And the only the concessions that the Fatah group had given to Israel, it only led to more death and more destruction and more domination in the eyes of Palestinians. So understandably, they were looking for an alternative outcome. They were looking for an alternative that was seen as an uncorruptible force. And they turned, as nation states that are dominated by a colonial power often do, to a more fundamentalist group. Hamas was willing to engage with Israel in armed conflict and also was initially cut out from the Muslim Brotherhood. So they were a little bit more on the fundamentalist side, and therefore they were seen as more honest than Fatah, which was secular. It's that simple. That's the reason why people voted for Hamas over Fatah, which, by the way, they didn't even vote for Hamas over Fatah by like massive numbers or anything. They got the plurality of votes. After America pushed for an election, shouts out to George W. Bush. And then America tried to lead further with a coup, a very violent coup, which led to Hamas taking over and establishing complete control over the Gaza Strip because they forcibly pushed out Fatah after a bunch of Fatah people went and straight up tortured a bunch of Hamas people. They apprehended them. They tortured them. They lost that coup d'etat. It failed. And then Hamas established full control over the Gaza Strip. In that process, however, Benjamin Netanyahu and other groups within Israel saw Hamas as a beneficial party to their grand design. Because of their Islamist position, they could just easily with ease, they could just present the Palestinians as like barbaric, fundamentalists, jihadists, whatever the fuck, right? Because they know exactly how the rest of the world treats Muslims that are even remotely devout. Not only that, but also their willingness, Hamas's willingness to also battle against Israel militarily, resist against Israel militarily, made it so that Israel could always use that as a future justification to engage in sieges on the Gaza Strip. And this is not my assessment at all. This is what Benjamin Netanyahu himself openly stated. But Israel's funding of Hamas came way, way later. Hamas started in like 1978 as a charity group, as an Islamic charity group that was a subsidiary of the Muslim Brotherhood in the region. It became a political party with a charter in 1988. And that charter wasn't like a full-blown real charter either. They formalized their charter in 2018 or 2017. But the idea that like Israel directly funded Hamas is also incorrect.
Unceasing war and endless danger. Today, the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. I want to express my gratitude to a man of exceptional courage and patriotism, whose partnership did so much to make this momentous day possible. You know who I'm talking about. There's only one, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Bibi, please stand up.
The only place in Israel where there will be claps, and even then is controversial, by the way. There is no other place in Israel where you could just be like, and Benjamin Netanyahu, he's so good. And Israelis will go, yeah, that's right. Do the Israelis really see this as a win? I don't know. I don't know where Israeli society is at right now. It does seem like there was at least a lot of like liberal Zionists, for example, that definitely wanted their family members to be extracted and released from captivity. So in that respect, like it's understandable that they are celebrating. I mean, that doesn't mean that there were that doesn't mean that they were upset about what took place in Gaza, because there's plenty of polling that shows that they were very aware and did not care about it at all. Hostages returned and lefties still find something to talk bad about? Wait, what do you mean? Dude, I think this is part of the reason why Donald Trump did this, by the way, so that like some of the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet could just be like, why are you still upset? It's like, first of all, the ceasefire is good. Okay? Not only do I say it's good, but I'm glad it's happening and I hope it continues and I hope it stays. Okay? And not only that, but also Donald Trump did this and Joe Biden refused to do so. So that's important to note. Having said that, if you don't analyze why October 7 even happened to begin with, then you arrive at this kind of idiotic position where you're like, what do you mean? Hamas started a war and then they lost it and Trump is allowing them to live, allowing those dirty Palestinians to live. Like this is not a cause for celebration at the end of the day. This is now 80 years of occupation, okay? Until there is true emancipation for the Palestinians, until there's a sovereignty for Palestinians, or Palestinians have autonomy over their own lives, there is still much more work to be done. Now, the question remains, is Trump the guy to do that? I don't think so. The ceasefire simply stops the genocide, which is good, and it should be praised, and I have. It's so strange to me that people make it seem as though that's not the case. Seconds after announcement that all living hostages were released, Israelis are starting genocidal demands, calling to erase Gaza. Now all is left is complete annihilation. Now the hostages are home. We can erase Gaza. Yallah, it's time. Nuclear bomb on Gaza. After 2 years, no hostages. Now we need to crush and destroy all of Gaza. It's time to storm Gaza. Oh, yeah, I mean, there are some. I don't know by and large where Israeli society is right now. There are a lot of voices that wanted to obviously complete the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. There were a lot of voices in Israel that wanted this. Some are, I will say this much. I thought I would hear more opposition from Itamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and a lot of the other factions that are full-blown like permanent military occupation, permanent ethnic cleansing in Gaza, like people that have very openly declared that they want to complete the genocide. They have been noticeably absent from the conversation. That is interesting. Okay? I don't know if that's because Donald Trump said, it's done, it's over, shut the fuck up. Bro, they did. Smotrich said they want to immediately go back in with full force. No, but like even like disbanding the government is not even a thing that they're entertaining at this moment. Maybe they will, right? But also on top of that, their fans, like their supporters, are not throwing as big as a fuss. Maybe it's because the media is not covering it. I don't know. Maybe it's because the media is not covering it. Only time will tell where where Israeli society broadly moves. But so far, what I have seen broadly is just a celebration that the hostages have been returned.
And he is not easy, I want to tell you. He's not the easiest guy to deal with, but that's what makes him great. That's what makes him great.
Yeah, like they're not doing like the right to rape riot style. They're not doing that shit that they were doing last time when like the Israeli government tried to like prosecute 6 concentration camp guards, and then they basically were like, nah, that's unacceptable. They should be able to rape the Palestinians to death.
Thank you very much, baby. Great job. And let me also convey my tremendous appreciation for all of the nations of the Arab and Muslim world that came together to press Hamas to set the hostages free.
Will they clap for the Arabs?
To send them home. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of help from a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect. And I want to thank them very much for that. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. And it's pretty unusual for you to see that, but it happened in this case. This was a very unusual point in time, a brilliant point in time. Generations from now, that is the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. Like the USA right now, it will be the golden age of Israel and the golden age of the Middle East. It's going to work together. I'd like to thank several great American patriots for their invaluable help in getting something done that almost everyone thought was absolutely impossible. We were wasting our time. So many people said, you're just wasting your time. But we weren't, because we had talented people working with us, and we had people that loved your country, and frankly, people that love the region. They love the Middle East. I want to thank my friend Steve Witkoff. You know, Steve was chosen by me. He never did this before, but I knew him as a few things. He was a great businessman, but I know a lot of great businessmen, to be honest with you. He had tremendous negotiating skills, but I know a lot of people that negotiate pretty well, although it is an art. But there are people that can negotiate pretty well. But most importantly with Steve, he's just a great guy. Everybody loved him. Everybody. I mean, I know some.
I'm telling you, so many Israelis are secretly seething or coping that this isn't the end. The vast majority want to continue the genocide. Everyone right now is just waiting and seeing if this is real or another Trump Netanyahu scheme. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen enough. Maybe some Israelis, maybe some liberal Zionists at least like have recognized that this was looking real bad. Yeah. As Trump basks in all the adulation and praise for getting the Israeli hostages out, Democrats should think long and hard about how Biden could have gotten this deal too, for reasons we may never fully understand, chose not to exert the power and pressure he had to do it. I said it so many fucking times, man. So many goddamn times. Like, they could have done it. They didn't do it. And they got punished for it. And now Trump, after continuing it for an extended period of time himself, for like 9 months, pushed it over the finish line. Yeah. Matt Duss says Biden had multiple ways to pressure Netanyahu, including by publicly blaming him for repeatedly tanking ceasefire talks. Biden chose to give him political cover and material to continue the war. No U.S. president is as helpless as former Biden officials seem to want to pretend. Because now you got like Biden world trying to come out and act as though, you know, their hands were tied or some shit. Arab mediators literally kept begging Biden to publicly blame Netanyahu for sabotaging the ceasefire talks. A Saudi diplomat told me Biden didn't budge as he wanted to be remembered as the most pro-Israel president. Today, Israelis were applauding Trump's humiliation of Biden enthusiastically. It is an abject failure of epic proportion in every way, shape, and form. Dan Shapiro says, former U.S. ambassador to Israel, Dan Shapiro says, the ability to pressure Netanyahu was related to Netanyahu's total embrace of Trump and the complete lack of any domestic political blowback to the president for doing it. Biden did not have either of those conditions. Bullshit. Biden would have survived the political blowback because only a majority of Republican voters support arms shipments to Israel, and they were voting for Trump anyway. Majority of Dem and independent voters have dropped Israel. You are stuck in another era. The American public has moved. And not only has the American public firmly moved at this point, they were already moving at the time. And I showed the polling on the matter over and over again. I showed it so many times. There were poll after poll showed that Democratic Party voters, or people who were not just like reliable Dem voters, but people who had voted for the Democrats in the past, or people who would consider voting for the Democrats, said that any sort of initiative that scales back Israel's atrocity or denying weapons transfers to Israel would be seen as a benefit. They would have absolutely voted. They would have absolutely voted for the Democrats if that happened. It was one of the many different reasons that the Democrats lost. It wasn't maybe it wasn't the most consequential, but it was just another relitigation of the problem at the core of the Democratic Party. This was emblematic of the major problem that the Democrats had in the election cycle, which is their refusal to listen to their base. Okay? They thought they could win by continuing to support Israel. They thought they could win in spite of Israel's unlimited child murder that many Americans could see. It is remarkable. And it is also additionally remarkable that they're still trying to find ands, ifs, and buts in this process to make it seem as though there was no other option. It wasn't just about Michigan, okay? Directly for Michigan, it played a major role, but it wasn't just about Michigan. It was for the entire country, because their inability to listen to reason, to listen to the crowd on the issue of Gaza, okay, was emblematic of the problems that many people saw with the Democrats. They would not listen. They would not actually try to separate themselves from the Republicans on this. And it caused people to stay home. This is precisely the reason why, even if all of the third-party voters actually all united and voted for the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris still would have lost the election. This is why the idea that like, oh, third-party voters actually cost the election to Kamala Harris is stupid, especially this time around, because it wasn't as close as the previous Hillary Clinton-Trump bout looked like. It was not just Gaza, but Gaza was definitely significant. Do you blame people for not coming out to vote? Or wait, what? Where is this? Do you blame people for not coming out to vote, or were they justified? This is silly. Okay? In a democratic process, you have to abide by the wishes of your voters. Okay? There will never be a moment where I say, oh, these guys actually fucked up. They didn't vote. It does not matter. Okay? It's the party that fucks up. It's the party that actually does not play its cards right. That's what democracy is about. That's what democracy is. They are supposed to motivate you to get out and vote. I always urge people on the importance of voting. Okay, you will never catch me saying don't vote, voting sucks, anything like that. I'm not one of those guys. I never have been and I never will be. Okay, it's the most significant, most consequential, least significant thing you can do. Okay, voting is very important. Having said that, the notion that people are supposed to vote for you due to harm reduction narratives that you didn't even actually do a decent job describing is a demonstrable failure. And it has been a demonstrable failure. The expectation that people are supposed to make up their own minds about how awful the Republican Party is and then move to vote for the alternative, it doesn't work unless people actually experience it. But even then, seemingly, if the Democrats don't present a counter narrative, if Democrats don't put up a fight against the Trump administration, then it still doesn't work. I mean, look at the Democratic Party's polling right now. Look at their approval ratings currently. They're fucking underwater. Yes, and this obviously leads me to Kamala Harris also saying this. Harris slams protesters during book tour. You want to talk about legacy? Let's talk about the legacy of mass deportations, of not voting, and Donald Trump. Liberals will cling on to this battle forever, and they'll say, like, you guys fucked up. You guys fucked up. They don't understand. That's not how democracy works. The failure is on the party. They got billions of dollars, man. They got billions of dollars.
I'm not president. And if you want to talk about legacy, let's talk about the legacy of mass deportation and Donald Trump. I'm not.
This video pissed me off so much yesterday. I yelled and scared the fuck out of my mom. She was not pleased with me. I don't know. I don't know how to like explain this to people. I think a lot of people who are liberals, they want to think about this from like team sports perspectives, not realizing that Kamala Harris's reactionary position, advancing Biden's position on border policy, a right-wing border policy, also played a role in people assuming that the Republicans were right on the border stuff. If only there was a guy who just kept fucking repeating this even before the election cycle. Do you guys remember? Even at the early stages of Trump's mass deportation initiatives, you had a bunch of people, including Chris Murphy, try to present this as like, we're the ones who are strong on deportations, not the Republicans. Chris Murphy went out and straight up said, Biden was deporting 15,000 migrants when he was in charge. Trump is only deporting 5,000 migrants. That's a crazy thing to say. Like, nobody thinks you're the mass deportation party. Everybody just looks at you and thinks that you're indecent, that you're a liar, that you got caught in a lie, that you are hypocritical when they see that. There is no reason, there's no moral reason to obviously abide by the media environment born out of hysteria that the Republicans have fucking designed. And there is certainly no reason to hand it to the Republicans on any of these issues, especially because it's not real. And we're seeing what happens when a not real issue becomes a major point of contention. And then the solution is this incredibly militarized ICE engaging in the unjustifiable and immoral practice of mass deportations, kidnapping people from the side of the street, demanding people's papers. That's where we're at. It's so fucking depressing, dude. It's so depressing because if Democrats don't understand that they cannot do this. Here, yeah. In the first week, Trump removed 7,300 people on average. Biden was removing 15,000 a week. Under Biden, 72% of ICE arrests were criminals. Under Trump, it dropped to around 50%. Trump is removing less people and less criminals. These guys are terrible at everything. January 30th, 2025. Like, that's a unacceptable. That is a person who looked at the outcome of this election and still didn't understand why they lost. Now, of course, now they're singing a different tune. Now they realize, like, oh, we have to actually present an opposition to the mass deportations, right? Yeah, this is from February 6, 2025. New, a Harris campaign organizer says senior officials ordered them to erase voters who asked about Gaza, marking emails as no response so they'd be removed from outreach. No engagement, no persuasion, just ignored. The only clowns are the ones who decided to abdicate on this. On the Gaza stuff, once again. Like, I'm trying to talk about this in a more holistic fashion, okay? This is the problem at the heart of the Democratic Party. Their endless need for bipartisanship, their endless need for compromise against an uncompromising and increasingly reactionary force is causing this country to move in the direction of fascism. We're there right now. We're there right now. There are still some in the consulting class that actively try to do this, where they're like, no, we have to consistently capitulate the right-wing framing on issues. You know, funding the police, a strong border policy, like trans issues, maybe even gay issues later down the line. If Republicans dominate on the trans stuff as they have been, they're going to eventually start, and they have already started moving towards like undermining Obergefell or doing a whole bunch of other shit, like not allowing gay people, the gay couples to like adopt children and stuff like that. All you do in that situation is basically tell everybody that is listening that the Republicans are right. Republicans are right. We're wrong. They're right. But we'll be better than they are. We'll be stronger on this issue than they are. You cannot outflank the right on any of this stuff. You can't. You have to fight the right on this stuff. Not only because they're wrong, the Republicans are wrong on these issues, and you should have a sense of decency, but also because if you do concede, people just look at you and go, oh, so they were right all along. Okay, I'm going to vote for the right party.
Negotiators that are so good, but you wouldn't have had peace.
They just wanted to win the election without the left. They fucking hate people like you. They hate the anti-war crowd. They hate the economic populace. They want 100 million Ezra Kleins. It was so obvious. It wasn't a mistake. No, I know. But the problem is you can't win an election like that. You just simply can't, because it's not just me or my audience. That's why it's such a silly fucking argument, because many in this community still did end up voting for Kamala Harris. But it's people that have never heard of me, people that don't know who the fuck I am at all, that also have the same anger and resentment. People that go, okay, what am I supposed to do with this information? Okay, that's it. Motherfuckers that are sitting on the couch are not watching me. Okay, motherfuckers who choose the couch over the ballot on the day of the election, they're not tuning in to my broadcast. Okay, the people that are tuning into my broadcast are already actively tuned in all the time, even when politics is not so fun or interesting. Those are the people who are the most tuned into politics.
In the Middle East, you would be in World War III right now with some of these guys. Everybody loves Steve, and they respect him, and they somehow can relate to him. I've known him for many years, and I've seen it over.
On the border, the choice is simple.
Here you have, there's there's friend of the show, Ofer Kasif. And also, what's the other dude's name? I'm always forgetting his name, but the two anti-Zionists are, the two like actual Ofer Kasif and Ayman Odeh, two actually anti-Zionist Knesset members that were sitting in that meeting, stand up and show they stand up and they have placards that read, I believe, "Recognize Palestine." Ofer Kasif was reading the Ilan Pappé book, and Ayman Odeh is a Palestinian citizen of Israel who gets elected by other Palestinians living in Israel. He doesn't count as an anti-Zionist voice. I mean, regardless, he had a placard up that said "Recognize Palestine," and this was unacceptable. Israeli lawmakers were removed after protesting during Trump's speech at the Knesset. Ayman Odeh, of Palestinian origin, held up a banner reading "Recognize Palestine." Left-wing lawmaker Ofer Kasif also tried to hold up a banner but was forcibly removed from the chamber. Odeh says, "They kicked me out of the Knesset just for raising the simplest demand, one that the whole international community agrees on. Recognize the state of Palestine. Recognize the simple truth. There are two peoples here, and no one is going anywhere.
I was kicked out of the Knesset for raising the simplest demand, one of the whole international community agrees on. Recognize the state of Palestine. Recognize the simple truth. There are two peoples here and no one is going anywhere.
Yeah. The talk on the Communist Party has been multifaceted. Kasif and other ministers of the Knesset have been suspended without pay on multiple occasions since the war for extended periods of time. Yeah. Yep, they kicked them out.
Knesset member Kasif out of the hall. Please expel him immediately.
Sorry for that, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Please.
That was very efficient.
Oh, he loves that shit. Oh my God. He fucking loves that shit, dude. Oh, you can see he is horny for that. He's like, I want that. Wish I could do that to Chuck Schumer.
So back to Steve. He's sorry because he.
Bro, they should make him the president or the prime minister of Israel. Honestly, like, I'm not kidding when I say this. He is more popular in Israel than he is in America. Okay. His approval ratings in Israel are far higher than they are in the United States of America. Go fuck up their healthcare, bro. Go fuck up their healthcare. They can have him. Stay there, please. Come back. It's just so crazy because, like, once again, Israel has one, government-funded abortion, universal health care, universal college, and we foot the bill for their almost entirety of their defense and offense, of course. So they can spend it on their own social programs. Now, obviously, they've like had to scale back a little bit in recent years because of the ongoing genocide. But it's crazy. Just like, go fuck their shit up, dude. Why are you fucking our shit up? It seems like they like you more there. You can keep him.
Was so involved, and then we called in Jared. We need that brain on occasion. We got to get Jared in here. We got to get a certain group of people. But Steve started this all by himself. I call him Henry Kissinger, who doesn't leak. Okay? Henry is a big leaker. He leaked. Steve doesn't leak. Steve just wants to get the job done. He wants to do what's right. But I'll give you just a quick story because, as you know, he's working on the war with Russia and Ukraine, a war that would have never happened if I were president. A shame. 7,000 young soldiers a week are being killed. More than that this last week. It's a shame. Should have never happened. But it did happen, and we won the race, and I took over this horrible war that's been raging, and I thought it would be easily settled. I thought it was a hell of a lot easier than doing what we just did very successfully with Israel and a lot of other people. But this came first, and we'll get that one. But I set up a meeting for him to meet with President Putin, thinking it would be a 15 or a 20-minute meeting. Steve had no idea about Russia, had no idea about Putin too much, didn't know too much about politics, wasn't that interested. He was really good at real estate, but he had that quality that I was looking for, and I didn't see it around in too many ways. And I set up the meeting with Putin, and I called. I said, is Steve finished yet? That was about a half an hour into the meeting. No, sir, he's not. He's still inside. This is in Moscow. I said, well, how's he doing? I don't know, sir. He's still inside. I called up an hour later. Let me speak to Steve. Sir, he's still with Putin. He's with President Putin. I said, wow, that's a long meeting, 1 hour. I called up an hour later, he was still with Putin. 3 hours later, he was still with Putin. 4 hours later, he started to get the word that he was going to be coming out soon. And in 5 hours, he came out. I said, what the hell were you talking about for 5 hours? And he says, just a lot of interesting things. We're talking about a lot of interesting things, including what he went in there for, but you can't talk about it for 5. You can talk about it for a certain period of time, and you know what you're getting. But that's a talent. That's a talent where you can do that. Most people I'd send in, number one, they wouldn't be accepted. Number two, if they were the meeting would last 5 minutes. And that's what happens with Steve. Everybody loves him. They love him on this side. They love him on the other side. And he really is. He's a great negotiator because he's a great guy. So thank you very much, Steve, very much. And let me also give a very special thanks to someone who truly loves Israel. In fact,
loves it.
We already saw this
so
part.
much that my daughter converted.
Oh, wait, no, we didn't see this part.
I didn't know this was going to happen, and Ivanka's here.
Converted to Israel? No, they're yeah, she converted. She's Israel now. She's Israel. She Israel high. No, I guess she converted to Judaism. Know that.
And Bibi, you do know this was not in the cards for me. You understand that. And she is so happy, and they are so happy. At least I think they're happy. If they're not, we have a big story, right? They have a great marriage, and they get along great. They're best
She's
friends.
being converted
They
to
have
the
a very
first Trump
special
admin? I didn't know that.
relationship. But Jared has been so helpful. He really did something very special. He established the Abraham Accords with a group of very wonderful people. I like calling it the...
I will never not say this because it must be repeated over and over again, even though no one will fucking say it, even on the Democratic Party. The only person who I've gotten to agree to it at the time was AOC. Abraham Accords under Trump 1 and the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem, also under Trump 1, and the permanent recognition of the annexation of the Golan Heights, also under Trump 1, which he will bring up in a second, that he did specifically for the Adelsons. All of those things that the Trump administration did directly led to October 7, okay? Directly. And it's crazy that if it wasn't so uniparty, if the pro-Israel position wasn't the fucking uniparty position, Democrats would have presented that as a reason. But they chose not to because Biden is a fucking ultra-Zionist. Even more so, I criticize Obama all the time for the way he also treated Israel. But post-Obama, the shift to allowing Israel to basically run all of the Middle Eastern policy by the Trump administration was so obvious, was so fucking obvious, was so overt. They just straight up were like, nope, we're letting them drive the car. And it's a damn shame that the Biden administration did not even reverse that trajectory one bit.
Abraham Accords, because people...
God. Abraham.
That Abraham, it's so cool. It's so much sort of nicer, you know, the Abraham versus the Avraham. I just don't want to sound too sanctimonious when I do it, so, you know, I sort of split it up. This way we keep everybody happy. But we have some very great talent, and they have no excuses for anything that's taken place because we had some unbelievably good people working on this. And then you're going to add a man named Marco Rubio, who is also here. And I have a prediction that Marco will go down, I mean this, as the greatest Secretary of State in the history of the United States. I believe that.
They all supported too. Plus, it was a part of Hillary Clinton's agenda in 2008. She said, I personally consider Jerusalem the eternal and indivisible capital of Israel. So, of course, they see no problem. It don't matter. Okay? Because guess what? Obama didn't do it. Okay? And any kind of Clinton would have done this too is irrelevant because Obama didn't do it. As a matter of fact, Barack Obama did JCPOA, which was against the wishes of Israel. Trump did do it. And he openly, in this speech to the Israeli Knesset, says why he did do it. He straight up is like, Sheldon Adelson, Miriam Adelson, they give me a lot of money. I love money. They give me so much money. I tell him I'm the president, and Sheldon still shows up at my doorstep. I say, all right, Mr. Sheldon, I'll still talk to you. Even after executing the JCPOA and kickstarting the process of maybe somewhere down the line normalizing relations with Iran, Obama on his way out still gave a $38 billion defense package to Israel, okay? $38 billion, 3.8 every year for 10 years. And that never stopped Israel from saying he's a Jew hater, okay? So there is no reason. There is no fucking reason whatsoever to ever abide by whatever kind of framework Israel wants us to abide by. It doesn't make sense.
I believe it. And he and I, we really fought it out. You remember, he was tough. He was nasty. Who the hell thought this was going to happen, Marco, right? And now I'm saying he's going to go down
Obama's
as the
in
greatest.
here.
He will.
Obama, I will never
was
forgive you.
always-
Damn, okay, sorry.
He was always smart and sharp, and people respect him. And then we have somebody who's young, but an unbelievable leader. I saw it a long time ago, and he's turned out to be even better than we thought. Right, Susie? I think even better. And that's Pete Hegseth, who is our Secretary of War, formerly Secretary of Defense. And as you know, we decisively won World War I. We decisively won World War II
World War
decisively. And everything in between and everything before it, we won everything. And then they had the brilliant idea of changing the name from war, it was war, to defense. And with that went a certain thinking. And we fought in a very politically correct way after that. We always had the strongest military, and now we have a stronger military than we've ever had before. Because of my first term, I've totally rebuilt the military, every aspect of it. But we have, you think, we settled 8 wars in 8 months. I'm now including this one, by the way, if that's okay. They may say, well, that was quick, because yesterday I was saying 7, but now I can say 8. The hostages are back. The hostages are back. It is a good feeling. Isn't that nice to say? I just said the hostage. First time I said the hostages are back. It feels so good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him. He's going to go to war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, my personality actually is all about stopping wars. And it seems to work. But it also means this name change and our attitude that we're not going to go into a war. But if we do, we're going to win that war like nobody has ever won a war before. We will not be politically correct, but we're not going to be there. And I think, as you mentioned, Bibi, before, peace through strength.
Bibi.
And that's what it's all about. The United States has the greatest and most powerful military in the, right now, history of the world. I can tell you we have weapons that nobody's ever dreamt of. I only hope we never have to use them. I rebuilt the military. I was proud to do it, but some of the things I hated to do. I hated certain of the weapons because the level of power is so enormous. It's so dangerous, so bad. But we have to do what we have to do. We make the best weapons in the world, and we've got a lot of them. And we've given a lot to Israel, frankly. And Bibi would call me so many times, can you get me this weapon, that weapon, that weapon? Some of them I never heard of, Bibi, and I made them. But we'd get them here, wouldn't we? And they are the best. They are the best. But you used them well. It also takes people that know how to use them. And you obviously...
At least we got an American president that's also getting a standing ovation in Israel for once, as opposed to the fucking Israeli president or prime minister constantly getting a standing ovation in America. Hollow victories. Ben Shapiro was in the audience, just left the Knesset after witnessing President Trump's history-making speech. Show forthcoming. Again, stay there, man. Honestly, just stay there. I don't know why you're coming back. Just stay there. It seems like you like it more. Same with Trump. Fucking stay there, guys. Actually, let us sort our situation out over here. Clearly, we just care more about everything that's going on here. Everyone there seems a lot happier.
They used them very well. But so many that Israel became strong and powerful, which ultimately led to peace. That's what led to peace. So as we celebrate today, let us remember how this nightmare of depravity and death all began. 2 years ago, on the eve of the Simchat Torah holiday, thousands of innocent Israeli civilians were attacked by terrorists, and one of the most evil and heinous desecrations of innocent life the world has ever seen, the worst slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. The cruelty of October 7th struck to the core of humanity itself. Nobody could believe what they were witnessing. The United States of America grieved alongside you, and we mourn for our own citizens who were so viciously taken that day, and to all the families whose lives were forever changed by the atrocities of that day, and all of the people of Israel, please know that America joins you in those two everlasting vows: never forget and never again.
This president in the history of USA for Israel, maybe? Because, like, it is pretty wild to say this when Trump's, once again, I'm going to repeat this, Trump's popularity in America is significantly worse than his popularity in Israel. Okay? And there's good reason for that. It's because none of the actual things that he said he was going to fix, which, you know, obviously was unbelievable, like the cost of living crisis or whatnot, he has actually fixed it all. And the only promises that he followed through on are actually worsening the cost of living crisis. He's implementing mass deportations. He's funding ICE. He's trying to erode due process and for the First Amendment. These are all things that are creating an environment of instability. All of the tariff stuff that he has done has also consistently created market volatility. The only thing he's actually followed through on is making the tax cuts for the wealthy permanent. And in an effort to make that justifiable, what has he done? He's cutting $800 billion in Medicaid funding. $800 billion. 16 million Americans are going to be kicked off of their coverage. Do you feel like that's winning? If it's winning, have you experienced it? Have you actually experienced it? Meanwhile, he's also sending the military domestically, deploying the American military over and over again. Where is the winning? Where is the winning? Seriously, buzzword bingo next stream? What do you mean buzzword bingo? Why is that chatter not responding? Like, you got nothing. The only thing he's given you is red meat, being like, oh, the 40 transgender NCAA athletes are no longer allowed to compete. Okay. Did that actually fix any of your problems? Calm your tits? Oh, my titties are calm, chatter. My titties are so goddamn calm. You can see my tits are calm. Does it look like I'm losing my mind in any capacity? Does it perhaps make you feel better if you think you have some kind of aesthetic victory here? If you imagine that the quote unquote lib is being owned in this situation? Is that what it is? In your mind, you're like, well, he's owning you right now. He's making you upset. Yeah, I'm upset because I care for every American, regardless of their background. Okay? I care about Americans living in rural areas that actually voted for Donald Trump, who are going to lose the remaining hospital that they had that is already in a state of dire disrepair now that Medicaid funding is being cut. I care about those people. I care about you more than you care about yourself. You found yourself in this situation where you think, oh, well, as long as we are dominating our enemies, the enemies that I've built up in my mind, the real enemies, not the actual establishment, not the financial elite, not the capital owning class, not the landlords that constantly raise rent. The actual elite in my mind is transgender working class Americans or undocumented migrants. Those are the real villains. Trump cares too. I don't think he does. I don't know why you think he still does. He doesn't even do a good enough job claiming he cares. You know, it's just shocking to me that there are still people that truly think that Donald Trump cares. Yeah, here, you want to know what he cares about? Here, this is a great video. I saw this earlier. Okay? Here it is. This is what he cares about. Just Trump riding around in his golf club telling rich members your taxes are coming down while the government is shut down with thousands losing their jobs, people losing health insurance, and kids going hungry. Totally normal stuff.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Your taxes are coming down. See, everyone's happy, honey.
That's awesome.
You've done a good job. Run through the 9 holes.
Hassan, I hate being a leftist so bad we keep taking L's. Listen, at the end of the day, what you have are your morals and what you have are your convictions. Okay? That's it. Stop being a fucking doomer. Stop being a doomer. No matter what happens, you have to keep pushing, okay? In spite of the endless amounts of smears, fear mongering, no matter what it is, you have to keep pushing. Your cause is just, and you're fighting to help others. Okay? You're not doing this so that you can feel good, or you're not doing this so that people turn around and say, wow, you're so cool. Or at least I'm not. And I hope you're not either.
From October 7th until this week, Israel has been a nation at war, enduring burdens that only a proud and faithful people could withstand. It was a very tough period of time. For so many families across this land...
Think about it this way. Even the fact that Donald Trump made the boss call finally after 9 months of allowing Israel to go crazy mode and do a genocide and refuse to give aid to the Palestinian population. The very fact that they had to put an end to it, and here's to hoping that that ceasefire stands, is because of the pressure applied by people like yourself, the broad awareness initiatives, the mass mobilization, the protests, the flotillas, the demands for boycotts, sanctions, and divestment. This would not have happened. So to the millions of Palestinians who have survived this Holocaust, remember, your voices did matter. Okay? Now, obviously, it's not over. It's far from over. But if the rest of the world, if the world continued to look the other way, do you think Israel would have stopped? Do you think America would have told Israel to stop? They wouldn't have. They would not have stopped at all. Hassan, I don't think you're right about the ceasefire being the consequence of pressure from the left. The current admin in Israel do not care at all about the pressure from the left. Brother, I'm not saying it's the pressure from the left. I'm saying it's pressure in general. You have to remember, not every single person that was out in the fucking streets are card-carrying leftists or socialists or Marxists or communists. What are you talking about? It's pressure from everyone. It was the pressure at the international level in Western liberal democracies that caused Western liberal democracies to turn around and say, okay, we got to do something about this. None of those guys would have ever wanted to turn Israel into a pariah state. If it was up to them, they would continue doing business as usual politics. It's not the quote-unquote pressure from the left, but the left was there from the beginning. Hassan, I thought you were specifically saying it was the result of people like that chatter who continue advocacy. That's why I say from the left. Yes, people like that do matter, because when it was actually consequential, far more consequential than it is now, to say the truth about what Israel was doing, it was the left that was out in the streets protesting. They lost their jobs. They got slandered, smeared. Their financial opportunities were cut short, but they didn't stop. And as time moved on, more and more people came to that recognition. Do you understand? So yes, the left did actually fucking play a formative role in this. There is no guarantee. I'm not trying to be bad faith here, but I don't see a causational relationship between activists and the ceasefire. Okay. Do you think Trump would have just simply decided, all right, now is the time, out of nowhere? Or do you think there was immense pressure that people placed on their own governments to do something about Israel, so much so that even Donald Trump decided, okay, Israel has lost the world, in his own words? Where did that come from? Where did that start? How did that start? If this wasn't consequential, the government would not have, under the Biden administration, arrested 3,500 student protesters. They would not have. If it wasn't consequential, the British government would not have made Palestine Action a prescribed terrorist organization and continue to arrest people for the crime of supporting Palestine Action. There is a reason why these guys wanted to implement a chilling effect on protests, because every time, if it wasn't consequential, they would not have bought TikTok and handed it off to one of the IDF's largest singular donors, Larry Ellison. It is weird cope and maybe skepticism to refuse to recognize what Zionists recognize every day and move to implement every day. If it wasn't for mass awareness initiatives and mass mobilization, it wouldn't have gotten to this point. Most importantly, of course, if it wasn't for the bravery of the Palestinians who were at the site of their own demise, instantly trying to show the depravity of Israel to all who would pay attention to it. If it wasn't for any of that, people would you think Western leadership would be forced to reckon with the incalculable death toll to at least offer symbolic gestures to make it seem as though, there is a pressure valve here. We're trying to release it. I don't agree with this characterization of the internationals as completely morally apathetic when Macron's France, for example, recognizes Palestinian statehood. That is not primarily the result on the streets activism. So what do you think it's the result of? Macron is actually a great example. Macron lost all of his influence at the domestic level because of his austerity measures, and the only part of his governance that remained was foreign policy. Why did Macron take an anti-Israel stance? Perhaps it has something to do with the mass mobilization and his opposition being a more popular figurehead with Mélenchon and numerous others in the Popular Front that were actively and consistently protesting against Israel. The argument that you're presenting sounds kind of silly. I don't want to undermine what you're trying to say here, but it sounds kind of silly because, you make it seem as though these leaders in the Western world, after turning a blind eye to these atrocities that we all saw, that we were all yelling about for a year and a half, almost 2 years, basically turned around and out of the kindness of their own hearts, decided, yeah, now is the time actually for a symbolic gesture. It's very strange. And it feels like you have this bipartisan fealty, like non-ideological fealty to anyone who is in government, no matter who it is. Whether it be Macron, who is a center-right liberal, or Donald Trump, who is a far-right reactionary. These are all people that actually decided on their own volition, and the unimaginable pressure presented towards them that could potentially even undermine democracy, not in America, but certainly in places like France, in places like Italy. I just don't agree with this vision that these leaders are completely apathetic and only shifted their position out of pure Machiavellian pragmatism. I agree that the activism signal boosted. That's clear as day, but I feel like you're overestimating the role it had in actual consequential policy. I like that you refuse to say what you truly believe, because I think you also recognize how embarrassing it is. Yes, world leaders are completely apathetic. They murder thousands with one command. What do you mean? They're not like regular people like you and I, okay? The notion that Macron actually is not apathetic, but simply finally came to his own conclusions, and that's why he offered a symbolic conditional gesture of state recognition of Palestine after 2 years of genocide. It just happened to be so perfectly timed. He just came to his own senses right then and there and did it unilaterally. It's ridiculous. Just say it out loud. You think politicians are actually good people, no matter what their ideological background is, and they actually make these choices not because of the unimaginable amount of pressure, but because they listen to their hearts. It just happened to be the most opportune moment to listen to their heart. And even then, you have decided to obviously concede on the framing that you said, that the public pressure coming from leftist opposition and public pressure that grew beyond just simply leftist activism or whatever was not as consequential. That was your immediate position. Now you're saying, okay, maybe it was a little bit consequential, but I think these politicians have kindness in their heart ultimately. There is no way that you can describe Israel's dramatic unpopularity swing by simply assuming that politicians actually decided it was Israel was now unpopular. It's ridiculous. How do you account for broad consciousness swinging against Israel and Israel becoming a fucking pariah state over the course of the last 2 years without thinking about the unlimited amount of mobilization that took place against Israel. That makes no sense. Of course it was the mobilization that mattered.
In years since you've known a single day of true peace, but now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over. And as the dust settles, the smoke fades, the debris is removed, and the ashes cleaned from the air, the day that on a region transformed and a beautiful and much brighter future appears suddenly within your reach. This is now a very exciting time for Israel and for the entire Middle East, because all across the Middle East, the forces of chaos, terror, and ruin that have plagued the region for decades now stand weakened, isolated, and totally defeated. A new coalition of proud and responsible nations is emerging, and because of us, the enemies of all civilization are in retreat. Thanks to the bravery and incredible skill of the Israeli Defense Forces and Operation Rising Lion.
Perfect example of engaging. A lot of the protests were obstructive. Any got in the way of people who had nothing to do with the argument, making their first impressions annoyance and inconvenience. No, protesting is assembling in a public space to show your ideals and sway more people to your side or inform the people of an issue. It has nothing to do with actively obstructing other people and becoming a nuisance. Oh, dude. Oh, I think this is Matt Iglesias, right? Is this Matty Iglesias in the chat? Is that what's going on right now? Well, at least he agrees that the DNC needs restructuring because they've been dropping the ball for the past decade. It's not about the number of deportations, it's about the aggression they use to go after them, plus how public Trump's chasing of illegals is. People are roadblocking him wherever they can, which I think is slowing his role. If ICE had full cooperation, I'm sure the numbers would be higher. I'm not a regular viewer here. I think 99% of what you say is trash. I just think it's important to hear all sides of the spectrum. This has to be a DNC op? No, this is like a ultra lib, I think. Like a ultra lib. Yes, protest is not meant to be disruptive. You're right. You're so right about that. Protest is supposed to be done quietly in your living room. Yeah. Broad awareness. Like even mass arrests that take place play a formative role in changing and shaping collective consciousness on issues. You know, mass sit-ins, for example. The type of liberal that this person represents is the type of liberal that also believes in the whitewash legacy of Martin Luther King Jr., who unironically also did engage in acts of civil disobedience and disruptions. Okay? So even from your standard of like what it means to do good and successful types of protests, even in the whitewashed approach to the civil rights struggle, you're still at odds with the way that you present how protests are supposed to be implemented. Just so you understand. Protests are always supposed to be disruptive. The entire purpose of it is to create broad awareness, to put your body on the line, to make sure that people understand that the government is ruthless and brutal when people are actually saying things that you might actually agree with. Okay? Civil disobedience doesn't have to impede an average uninvolved person. This guy's looking at the situation of segregation and going, honestly, why are they actually doing mass sit-ins? Like, people just want to get food. Why are people... Why are people engaging in like work stoppages? This is just disrupting the regular flow of commerce for average people that are uninitiated and uninvolved. Please stop protesting. Are you claiming that domestic protests stop the direct genocide? I'm claiming that the international mobilization from working class individuals all around the world, specifically initially started by Palestinian activists, okay? Palestinians living in diaspora, created broad awareness around this issue at a time when the mainstream media refused. Wait, what? Because the Palestinians recorded at Lamau, not because of your useless protests? Wait, what? That's what I said. Without the bravery and the resilience and the steadfastness of Palestinians that put their lives on the line to record their own demise to those who would dare to pay attention, no one would know exactly what's going on. No one would know what's going on at all. You are arguing against the position that I do not hold. My point is, every step you take in the right direction matters in ways that you can't even comprehend in that initial moment. Okay? That's it. That's it.
Guy's central casting. Let's put him in a movie. Look at him. Great job. And my people loved working with you. Loved it. They worked so well together. But many of Iran's top terrorists, including nuclear scientists and commanders, have been extinguished from this earth. And with Operation Midnight Hammer, boy, that's a great name for that, what we did. Last June, United States military flew 7 of those beautiful B-2 bombers. They look so beautiful all of a sudden. They were always, I thought they were pretty planes.
Well, you know, Hasanabi's winning is a chat chock full of haters. I know that is the sign of someone who's converting people to their viewpoint. I don't think that that's the best sign, honestly. Trump has a lot of haters too. Well, I guess he is converting people. But no, my point should be reassessing how to actually be effective rather than patting ourselves on the back by claiming our extremely marginal protests were effective at all. Trump's narcissism probably played a bigger role. Okay, the reason why I started addressing the importance of protesting and how putting your body on the line mattered in terms of kickstarting broad awareness, okay, broad awareness initiatives, is because Trump's narcissism would not have caused him to recognize that there was even a problem at all for Israel here. But he very openly said, Israel's lost the world. Israel is losing the world. We're going to fix that. And the only reason why Israel fucking started losing the world is because, once again, the Palestinians were filming how Israel was slaughtering them, mutilating them, murdering them, and how people saw that, were horrified by that, and were taken to the fucking streets. Okay? What are we talking about? If these things were not consequential, and writing it off as marginal is so fucking stupid because you're doing the other side of like what ContraPoints claims, okay? God damn, some of you leftists are such classic fucking doomers, such unimaginable nihilists for no fucking reason. At a time when someone was behaving in a doomer fashion, I was trying to explain that like your voices do matter, okay? It might come across as marginal, it might come across as inconsequential, okay? But it's not. It moves the needle in the appropriate direction, little by little. Because if it wasn't consequential, these fucking assholes would not be working to arrest you, okay? This isn't to say, you know, pat yourselves on the back, our job here is done. That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just beginning, okay? But every now and then, you also have to recognize that these sorts of initiatives actually changed, swung the opinion, the opinion of the Western world broadly against Israel. Jesus Christ. Like, please. I've been at this game for 12 years. I've seen with my own 2 eyes how dramatically the public opinion changed on Israel, how dramatically it swung in the opposite direction. So when you guys come in here and you say, nah, that doesn't matter, like, what, you think people came to their own conclusions on their own? Like, no, they didn't. Every single person that you talk to directly and convinced to see the truth is another person that can go talk to 10 other people, okay? This is how change happens. I understand that human life is finite and we have horse blinders when it comes to dramatic shifts in public consciousness, when it comes to like change happening, but every little bit matters. That's it. And if it didn't fucking matter, these people would not be actively trying to stamp it out, actively trying to harm you to get you to shut the fuck up.
I had no idea they could do what they did. In fact, we just ordered 28 more of them. A little updated version. We ordered a whole pile of them.
Yes, this is a better take. The main reason this ended was the cost of continuing military operations was too high. Part of that is the diplomatic cost internationally, and the part of it is the direct resistance. All of it led to Israel and America realizing the cost outweighed any gains. Yes, make no mistake. I've been saying this since day one. Eventually, there will come a moment where the American administration that has been full-throated in its support for Israel will have to recalculate how much they can let Israel get away with. We are there now, it seems. If this ceasefire holds, and it seems like Trump will push for it to hold, and obviously the job is not done, right? It blows my mind that you saw so many people change their minds over the course of the past 2 years. Hassan, if you believe public opinion matters to this degree, then you're implicitly conceding that liberal capitalistic states are in some way responsive to popular will, at least to some degree. I don't disagree with that, but I'm surprised to hear it coming from you. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm like some fucking vanguardist guy or something? Like, what do you mean? Okay, so you were wrong about your opinion, Yes, of course I think public opinion matters. The reason why I think public opinion fucking matters is because I understand that it makes it harder. It makes it much harder for the administration to continue along in the way that they continue along in the ways in which they want to continue. It certainly wasn't mainstream news that was covering what was going on in Gaza with honesty. It wasn't the politicians. So how the fuck did so many Americans come to that realization on their own? Look what happened when the Democrats ignored public opinion. They lost. Jesus Christ. Even if I was a vanguardist, I also analyze that the current material conditions are not ripe for any sort of like mobilization. We do not even have labor militancy in this country. We barely have trade unions in this country. The fuck do you mean we have a Marxist-Leninist vanguard? We have nothing. You have to recognize and work within the confines, work within what you have.
Almost 100 other planes went with them, including fighter jets. We had 52 tankers, big, beautiful.
From the way my Israeli grandparents are acting, I think this could be real. They keep talking about how Hamas can't be left still existing. Israelis really wanted this to be the complete end of Gaza, and the troops actually moving out and allowing Palestinians back into the north shows this isn't purely aesthetic. The political landscape in Israel is going to be about how to destroy Hamas. They won't give up this genocide easily. I agree, for sure. But we'll see how we get there because, again, if America is recalculating the cost-benefit analysis here and realizing that, like, Israel's become too much of a fucking pariah, so it's getting in its own way, and it's therefore getting in America's way of whatever kind of grand design they have for the region, with Israel playing the jockey role here, okay, Israel controlling that grand design, they have to basically tell them, stop for a little bit, please. You're getting at, you're going too crazy mode, okay? You blew up Doha. That's fucking insane. We have thousands of fucking troops there, and you just struck the capital of a oil-rich regional power that is under a security arrangement with us, perhaps the most consequential. That's where U.S. Central Command is. And Israel thought they could get away with fucking blowing up Doha after using the Trump administration to bring all of the fucking negotiators into one room. Qatar has taken hits twice now at the behest of Israel and America. Once from Iran and once from Israel directly. It's crazy. Libs think the Dems losing was your fault, but somehow international protesting is marginal. Yeah, it's just... it's just people thinking that they... it's just people that want to be right. That's all this is. You're right, Israel is too rabid, maybe, but we are still benefiting from the arms industry, literally destroying Syrian sovereignty, which was their biggest W in the last 2 years, and did a genocide for which there will be no Nuremberg or accountability. Maybe our movement should move to prosecute those complicit harder rather than saying our protests achieved a lot. Did I ever fucking say that these things are not true? Or did I ever say that we shouldn't be moving to try and prosecute these people? Of course. Of course. That's why I stress the importance that, like, this job is not done. This is not over until Palestinians have sovereignty, until Palestinians have emancipation. What the fuck? I don't know where you're coming from, man.
Brand new tankers that were loading them up 4 or 5 times. They've traveled 37 hours back and forth. Think of that.
That's why I always say America does not hate Israel enough. Okay? That's true. It's just true. There are plenty of other countries where they hate Israel a lot more. America has fallen behind.
We had tankers all over the sky for all the other planes. We had the F-22s, the F-35s, F-16s. We had a hell of a lot of planes. So we had 52 gas stations in the sky. That's what they call them. I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to be flying one of them. We have our great General Raisin Kane right here. General, stand up. This guy. What a general.
Like, it just blows my mind that there's Americans, maybe Arabs living in diaspora, but certainly not Palestinian, I suspect, being like, oh, these protests are marginal. Yeah, okay. Go talk to the fucking Palestinians in Gaza if they think the protests are marginal. They don't think the protests are marginal at all. Like, what are we talking about? You got, like, little babies in Gaza holding up signs being like, we stand in solidarity with the fucking student protesters that are getting arrested. And you got white Americans in the chat being like, dude, this shit doesn't fucking matter. Of course, every little bit matters. Okay? Every little bit matters. I'm just saying maybe he's an Arab in diaspora because his name is Monkey D. Houthi. Okay? That's the only reason why I said that. I don't even think Arabs in diaspora feel that way. They also... They also exist in a world where they have been declared public enemy number one for like the last 25 fucking years. What are we talking about? So even they cannot comprehend how much of a public attitude shift has happened on the issue of Israel. I was just giving him an out before he goes, I'm not a white dude from fucking Kentucky. I'm actually Arab or something, you know? Doesn't change the reality. It's just he's still wrong.
I asked General Kane, I said, we're having problems with ISIS, and I was in Washington, and I asked, how long would it take to defeat ISIS? And my Washington generals told me, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, sir. I said, I don't get it. We got the best equipment in the world. Why? So I flew to Iraq, and I met with a man named Kane. He said, what's your first name? He said, they call me Raisin, sir. I said, wait a minute. Your name is Raisin Kane? I've been looking for you.
Shouldn't we phase out blanket statements and just say the majority of Israel? Because I'm sure the protests in Israel don't support this. That being said, the state of Israel has been violating human rights since the 40s. So are they an exception to blanket statements? Yeah, I abide by the public polling and public approval for the death and destruction in Gaza amongst the Jewish Israeli society. And they are almost in unison in support of the famine and the mass atrocities that have taken place. Okay? They know it's happening. They don't give a shit. They have been polled on this issue on numerous occasions. Okay?
For a long time. You gotta be kidding. So they told me 3, 4, 5 years to defeat ISIS. And I sit down with him and I say, why is it? I flew there. The dark of night, I landed. I'll never forget it. It's quite a trip. I'm glad I made it because I met him. I said, could I ask you, General? I come down. He said with another general and a sergeant. Everybody was like central casting. They could go into a movie right now. Between him and you guys over here, we could get rich making movies, okay?
Who the fuck is that sumo wrestler guy? What's his name? Stephen Chung? He's Trump's social media guy. I love him. He's one of my favorites in the admin. He's incredible. He is a sizable lad.
And they got along so great. That's the beautiful thing, that your military and our military, Bibi, got along so great. But I was told by the television generals in Washington, we have the best equipment in the world. Why is it taking so long? And they said, 4 years. I said, so let me ask you, Raisin, how long would it take you to defeat ISIS? Sir, we can do it in 3 weeks, but you'll probably have some time left over. I said, you gotta be kidding. What the hell are you talking about? They said 4 years. I said, well, sir, look, it's not my place to say, but you're asking me the question. What you have to do is you hit him from the west, you hit him from the north, you hit him from the south, you hit him above, you hit him below. I said, so why didn't they do it? And he didn't want to speak badly of his superiors, which is hard to believe they were his superiors. Should have been the other way around a long time ago, because he's the one that did Operation Hammer. It was flawless. It was flawless. It was absolutely flawless. And I said, so you really think you can do it in 4 weeks? Yes, sir, 100%. You have to do it differently than they were doing it. They were using one base and it was hundreds of miles away. And he says, we have all these portable bases all over the Middle East. And they didn't want to use them because they didn't want to offend the country where the portable, they wouldn't have even known what the hell the planes were going up, right? They wouldn't have known, but he said, no, they didn't want to defend anybody, offend anybody. And but we can do it in 4 weeks. I said, you sure about that? I'm going to call you back. I'll call you back on Monday. I'm going back to Washington. But you think 4 weeks? Yes, sir. I think we can do it in 4 weeks. We'll have time left over. So I call him on Monday. I said, you think you can do it? 4 weeks. I said, go ahead and do it. He did it. I'll tell you, he did it in 4 weeks, less than 4 weeks. So, General, stand up, please. Again.
Also, Kane is a venture capitalist.
This
That's
is
awesome.
a real general. This is not a television general. He doesn't want to go on television. He doesn't want to go on television. That's it. The other guys love being on television. Bombs on Iran's key nuclear facilities, totally, as I said originally, obliterating them. And that's been confirmed, and everybody understands it. Together we stop the #1 state sponsor of terror from obtaining the world's most dangerous weapons. And if you think about it, if we didn't do that, and assuming we made the same deal that we have today, there'd be a dark cloud over this deal. And #1, it wouldn't happen because the other Arab and Muslim nations really wouldn't feel comfortable making the deal that we have now, right? If Iran had that nuclear weapon that they were about 2 months away from having. They would have had it in 2 months or maybe less than that. They were right at, this was our last shot. They looked at it for 22 years. This was our last shot. The pilots told me that. They said, 22 years, sir. They looked at it. Our predecessors looked, they studied it. 3 times a year would do drills on that exact attack. And boy, did they get it right. But let's assume they didn't. And let's assume there was large-scale nuclear weapons in the hands of Iran. We couldn't be here today. Even if we signed the deal, which we couldn't do because a lot of people would not want to have anything to do with it. We took a big cloud off of the Middle East and off of Israel. It was my honor to help. But isn't it true, though, that can you imagine the same, let's assume, Bibi, the same documents, we had everything the same, but you had somebody out there that was, in the opinion of everybody, all-powerful in the Middle East. They took a big hit, didn't they? Didn't they take a big hit? Boy, oh boy. They got hit from one side, from the other. And you know, it would be great if we could make a peace deal with them. And I think that's big. Would you be happy with that? Wouldn't it be nice, I think?
Not
Because
as many
I think
people
they want
applauding
to.
for that
I think
one.
they're tired. Somebody said, sir, they're starting their nuclear program again. I said, let me tell you something. They're not starting anything. They want to survive. The last thing they want to do is start digging holes again in mountains that just got blown up and start. They're not doing this. They want to survive, okay? But I think we have a chance. Steve, you, and I think Jared, come on, I'll call you back for another one. We always bring Jared when we want to get that deal closed. We bring Jared, but Steve, you and Jared and the General and Pete and Marco, you'll get that deal done easy. I think that'll be easy. But first we have to get Russia done. We got to get that one done. If you don't mind, Steve, let's focus on Russia first, all right? We'll get it done. In Lebanon, the dagger of Hezbollah, long aimed at Israel's throat, has been totally shattered. My administration is actively supporting the new.
I think some of the most consequential aspects of this past 2 years, the incredible deterrent that both the Palestinian resistance has presented, making this genocide as costly as possible, making it so that like Israeli reservists did not want to return at all, making it as difficult as possible. The deterrent from the Ansar Allah in terms of shutting down an entire fucking port, okay? Shutting down an entire port in Israel. And then the deterrent from the IRGC as well, the Iranian ballistic missiles that in a matter of 12 days were able to virtually deplete the entirety of Israel's stockpiles. And American stockpiles, too. Stuff like this seems irrelevant or silly, but it's not. It's not irrelevant at all. It's actually very consequential. That is the only time when Israel has been forced to stand down and forced to back down. Because they've shown once, time and time again, that the only time that they ever recalculate whether or not they can go as hard as they want to is if they feel like they're getting punished too much. That is something to always remember. And something to always consider.
President of Lebanon in his mission to permanently disarm Hezbollah's terror brigades. He's doing very well. And build a thriving state at peace with its neighbors. And you're very much in favor of that, I know. And it's good things are happening there, really good things. And with this week's ceasefire, we've achieved the most challenging breakthrough of them all, the most challenging breakthrough maybe ever. I mean, I've never seen anything like. I've been involved in a lot of success. I have never seen anything like what's going on today all over the world. People are dancing in the streets, not just in Israel. They're dancing in the streets of countries that would have never danced in the street about what's happening today. They're dancing in those streets.
He loves talking about dancing people.
Difficult war has now ended. You know, some people say 3,000 years, some people say 500 years, whatever it is. It's the granddaddy of them all. And in an unprecedented achievement, virtually the entire region has endorsed the plan that Gaza will be immediately demilitarized, that Hamas will be disarmed, and Israel's security will no longer be threatened in any way, shape, or form. So Israel, with our help, has won all that they can. You've won. I mean, you've won. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. It's about time you were able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, Mr. Opposition Leader. I said he's a very nice opposition leader. I think, no, he's a nice man. Bibi, he's a nice man. He knows what he's doing, right? He's a very nice guy. Well, see, now you can be a little bit nicer, Bibi, because you're not at war anymore, Bibi. Only by embracing the opportunity.
Yeah, by the way, you're the nice guy he's talking about. The nice guy he's talking about right here. Let me find this quote real quick. Lapid, I say to all those who demonstrated against Israel, I am the leader of the opposition, and I tell you, you were deceived. Now that the war has stopped, you have time and a chance to go and learn the facts. The truth is there was no genocide, no intentional starvation. Such strong opposition, man.
Opportunities of this moment can we achieve our goal of ensuring that the horrors of recent years will never happen again. You don't want to have to go through this again. 8 years ago, I came to this region on a very special first trip abroad as the President of the United States. I came here very early at your request. I addressed the leaders of the Arab and Muslim world gathered in Saudi Arabia and said that it was time to build a future free of the grip of extremism and terror. And interestingly, right now, as soon as I'm finished, I'm quite late. You've kept me quite late between opposition leaders and Bibi's.
Yeah. This is why those banking on the Israeli opposition convinced very few. Yair Lapid, head of Israel's opposition, openly stated, those who demonstrated against Israel in London, Rome, Paris were deceived by propaganda. The truth is there was no genocide, no intentional starvation. Yes, to the chatters that it's like not being genocidal is a losing position. Yes, it literally is. The only people who are anti-genocide in that fucking Knesset were packed up and forcibly removed from the Knesset. So yes, you're not wrong. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to move on from this speech. I can't listen to him anymore. But
Benjamin Netanyahu,
he
the Prime Minister,
has said the war is over. Okay, that's perhaps one of the greatest recognitions that we'll get. Now let's talk about the reaction to the hostage swap. I don't want to fucking see this person's face any longer. I can't deal with Donald Trump.
Damn, this guy's good.